Press start.
But for real, we're going to start.
Yes.
We're going to actually start. Here we go. Episode 167. I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's a little game that came out. I feel like we're saying that every week for the last several weeks. There's a little game that dropped this week that everyone's excited about.
Redfall.
But our main topic this week, of course, is going to be about Zelda. But there's other games and stuff to talk about, some news. We'll get to all of that. But first, my name's Tim, and I'm here with Jeff. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing out there, everybody? Hey, what's going on?
This is a radio show now. I like
Jeffy Poo. Yeah.
And rocking the Zelda Ocarina shirt. Love it. Kyle's here.
Hi.
I have a Majora's Mask shirt.
Didn't give me time for a sip between that one there, Kyle.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
And draped in a Spider-Man blanket is Derek. Hello, friend.
Hi.
Hi.
And
And
that was great.
Dan has been streaming some Zelda. We'll talk to him about it too. How's it going, Dan?
Good. I'm enjoying Tears of the DLC because this is just a massive DLC,
just
right?
DLC.
I love it.
Hot
God,
take.
it
Hot
just-
take.
Just DLC.
There.
Yeah,
Out,
nobody's
out,
nobody's
just
ever said that.
screaming
Thank you
people.
so much.
Guys, right
Thanks
behind
for
me,
coming
right here,
original.
you can see I've got my special Zelda edition Zelda OLED right here.
There
Look
it
at
is.
that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful console. I love
It is, and even
really
the
wish
dock,
I
even the dock looks so cool with like the etching on it. Like
Yeah.
it's really great.
I was tempted. I did just order an OLED Switch, and it's coming on Tuesday. But I got the standard white. I
Which
think
is
that one's
also
only like.
nice. Yeah,
I think that one's not that much more. The Zelda one.
It's just
$10.
$10.
$10.
Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that looks good, but I'm not. I didn't grow up on Zelda, so like, what am I?
Oh,
what would I be
You're
doing?
a
You know?
poser. You're walking around, wearing a band
Yeah.
that you heard one song of. Yeah.
What am I doing?
I feel you, dude. That's respect,
People
dude.
be
That's pretty
asking
good.
questions,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, I don't know shit about this franchise. I don't
Yo,
know.
dude, you like Zelda? You're like, no, and they're like, why do you own this system then?
It was pretty. I thought it was pretty. Yeah, no, I get it. Speaking of Zelda, let's just jump right in. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom arrived really just yesterday. We've only had it for technically a few of us played it a little bit that late Thursday night because it released at midnight East Coast
Bro,
time. And
I was
unlocked.
playing on the Steam Deck like 2 weeks ago.
I know
Oh,
you were. I know you were. Pro
Alright.
gamer. I
Oh,
get
is the
it.
Steam Deck
God.
verified? Steam Deck verified?
Yeah,
Steam Deck
it's
verified?
Steam Deck
Mods,
verified.
I read all the leaks.
4K.
So we've had various amounts of time spent with it. But actually, I want to start with Dan, because not only were you streaming it, I want to get your thoughts on what the reactions were from folks who were watching you stream it, but also you just played Breath of the Wild and finished
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
And so it's just interesting as you transition from that into this, just your opening thoughts. What's the first thing that comes to mind in your first impressions of Tears of the Kingdom?
So I had told you guys I was going to stream it and probably then just kind of put it down because I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to finish it before 16. Because when 16 comes out, I'm kind of sort of going to focus on that pretty much only.
Why?
Just then.
Why
You
would
like
you
Final
do
Fantasy?
Same.
I don't know. I'm just
I mean, that's me with Diablo, honestly. It's like,
Diablo,
Same
yeah.
with Diablo, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I kind of like right now I have that itch of Zelda because I started Breath of the Wild again, and like it just felt like riding a bike again. It just was really comfortable, and I'm playing this now, and it just kind of feels like I am sort of continuing that, right? It's almost like a part 2 of it, and it's just I'm not feeling like wanting to step away from it, to be honest with you. So
Does that
I
surprise
might
you that you don't feel like you want to step away from it?
not really because I put in probably an extra like 15-20 hours with Breath of the Wild there at the end because like I still ran around, did some extra stuff, but then I did the other 2 Divine Beasts, and then fought Calamity again, and so yeah, I guess right now I'm just kind of like I'm actually really enjoying this, and maybe I will just try to kind of rush it at the end if I'm still feeling like I still have a lot to do.
Yeah.
And then like kind of circle back around to it to do any extra stuff. But yeah, the stream, as far as the streaming new games can be tricky. Just because it's either you're probably going to most likely get people that don't want to be spoiled.
Right.
Or just like humbly, I don't have like a crap ton of followers. Like, I feel like you have to have like a crap ton of followers where people just don't care and they just want to hang out with the streamer, whether they're playing a new game or not. And that's when like you're getting good numbers. So it was a relatively quiet stream, but it was really fun. Cause it's just fun kind of sharing that with everybody.
Yep.
And,
I would say, and you can continue. I just wanted to comment on the streaming this game. I actually feel like this game feels like Elden Ring, and the reason I say that is like it's good to stream because you'll get people like me to watch, just because there is no one path.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
literally open. So it's kind of cool to see what other people figure out, and then you're like, well, I want to do that in my game, or I want to get that, or whatever. So I actually think it's a good game to stream, just because there's so much to it that nobody's going to do the exact same thing. So you're not spoil. I understand you're still spoiling stuff, but what I'm saying is people are going to see you do stuff that maybe they haven't experienced in their own playthrough and will want to.
Yeah, I wonder if those numbers go up if you like try it in a week or two. You know what I mean?
Well,
so you're not spoiling the beginning of it, or like what how that opens
because it's
up.
literally story
they're just catching you in the middle.
Stuff.
They're just because like a lot of that, like 80% of both of these games, Breath of the Wild, and I assume this game, are getting to the next plot point and being distracted getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Elden Ring, not like Elden Ring. So if
Yep.
someone catches you on a stream, there's almost like a major chance that they're not going to catch a story beat anyways, you know?
Well, there was more people popping because I did do a couple of streams just to kind of also like make sure that I finished Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom. I did a couple of Breath of the Wild streams prior, and people were popping in because the game is like 6 years old. So at that point, a lot of people have already experienced it, so they were just kind of hanging out.
Well, so the physics simulator does make it fun to watch. So like if you trip and fall down a mountain and you have a whole room full of people watching that, that's a good time.
It is extremely, especially in this one, because there's all new elements that they threw into this one, and things are bonkers, combining items and stuff, which we'll discuss. But yeah, it was a fun. I'm assuming none of you were there, right? Because one of you would have commented on how I was dressed. No?
I didn't even know you
how
were
dressed.
I didn't even know you were streaming.
You dressed as Tingle.
Did you dress as Tingle?
Yeah.
Wait, so hold on. Why is that the immediate? Why was that?
Know. That's just
me
the
and
one
Tim both were right there, though. I think that's the obvious choice that you were Tingle.
Listen.
I don't know. Maybe I was. Maybe I was.
We can only find out by going to watch your stream. I get it.
Okay, that's fair.
Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Maybe
everyone go check out the stream. Go see what he's wearing.
But it was really fun, and I
tag me next time you stream, and I'll try to join.
Okay.
By the way, when you post it in our Facebook group, because I'm not on a ton of social media platforms, really not. So when you post it, I almost always Facebook shows it to me a day after you posted it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Again, it's
almost always.
Streaming is a very to me. Streaming is a very you just either have to be the type of person that's into it or not, and that's fine. Like it's just some people just aren't into really watching streams, and I wasn't really before I started doing it, but now I kind of do it more often while I'm working, kind of hanging out and listening and a little bit of chatting. But yeah, it's just it was really fun, and the beginning of the story is the game is super like ominous. The music is like really creepy, which actually kind of ties to the end of Breath of the Wild, because when you finally get to the castle, the music's like kind of building, which is what like previous Zelda games do, like with the Ganon theme and stuff. Like it starts off kind of a little simple, but you're hearing that Ganon theme and it builds and it builds and it builds, and that's kind of what it did there, which was really cool. Yeah, it's just I think Hyrule Castle at the end of Breath of the Wild was actually my favorite part overall. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
but
same.
when you got to the castle, it was so awesome. It was so cool.
It just felt like there was a lot of places to go, and a lot of you didn't have to go and explore much, but you could if you wanted to, you know. And and I think that's like the DNA of this game and the new one. Of just like it's all there if you want it to be there, or you could just run straight to the next thing that you need to do, you know. So it's whatever you want to do, you know.
But I will say that the beginning of this game already feels, in a good way, for me anyways, for some people it wouldn't be, a bit overwhelming already out the gate.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys feel that way, but with the mechanic of attaching things, I don't know if
I'm more comfortable now, but like putting myself back in that first hour, I will say that they piecemeal it to you pretty good. It's just like they give you one thing and they're like, all right, you're going to focus on doing this for a little bit. But like by the time I land on Hyrule from like the tutorial island or whatever, that's where I felt it, where I'm just like, I'm like crippled with anxiety. I've gotten beyond that, you know. But like once I got boots on the ground and like it was like, okay, go, and I'm like, what?
You know, it's interesting. I didn't feel overwhelmed, but I did feel a bit of FOMO with like, am I doing the right weapon combos here?
Yeah,
Like
same.
it was more about that. So I didn't really feel
For
overwhelmed.
sure.
It was more of like, I might need a guide immediately to find out like, oh, combine this and this, and you have a badass sword. Right?
Well, I think it was just the elements of like them explaining the different like energy cells with this thing and that thing, and then it's like, wait, what's all the different little items here?
Well, that's the funny, like when they were explaining it, I was like, you know what, I'm not reading. I don't know what the freak you're talking about, right?
Shocker.
I totally was like, no, I'm not doing this. And so at first I was like, okay, this is gonna be a lot. But then when I started just playing, I was like, oh, everything's like easy. Like this isn't that hard. It's kind of like the example I would use when you said, hey, this is kind of overwhelming. I was gonna share this morning. It was like kind of my third big session, right? So I start where I left off the night before, which is I literally walked into a shrine and I was like, I'm not in the mood for a puzzle. I need to go to bed. So I wake up, first thing I'm doing is a puzzle. Well, it's the first shrine that I would say that I got to that was like it's huge. The room's huge and there's a lot going on. And I'm like, I don't know what you want. I'm going to assume you want me to go to the left, whatever. I start there. So I start piecing it together. I get to what I would consider the end of the puzzle. It's just one room because some shrines have multiple rooms. It's just one room. And in this room, a ball's dropping down, and you clearly have to get the ball to the drop down and get it to the right into this like roller coaster like thing that pops it into the hole, like you've done in Breath of the Wild, right? So I'm grabbing all the material I have. They put a bunch of material in there, and I'm piecing things together, and I'm like getting angry because I'm like, first of all, having trouble piecing them together, then having trouble sticking them to the wall. And at the same time, there is where the ball drops down, there's this thing that's constantly looping. It's just moving. And you've got to stop that because you got to get the ball to ricochet, hit that, and then it's going to roll into that and then hit the roller coaster like thing, right? So I'm trying to stop that. It's knocking everything apart. I'm getting angry. I'm 45 minutes in, and I'm like, what the flying fuck is going on here? Why can't I piece this together? Why is everything falling apart? I had to restart it 4 different times because I got the ball in there twice, but the ball didn't go up. And I'm like, I must have not generated enough speed. So I'm angry about that. I'm like, I finally piece this together. It takes me 10 minutes to piece together. I get the ball in there, and the ball can't even reach the hole because, again, it's looped. So it goes up, and it doesn't have enough speed. It drops down in the middle, and then I'm like, okay, let me grab the ball to reset it. You can't grab the ball. Once the ball's there, it's stuck. So I had to restart. So finally, 45 minutes in, I'm like, YouTube. Fine, I'll YouTube it. Dude, this guy literally moves 2 pieces. He's not even piecing anything together. He just moves. He moves one thing over, the ball hits that. He moves another thing there, and then once you get the ball in the basket, spoiler if this is a big deal to you, once you get the ball in the basket, it isn't supposed to go fast to launch. It's supposed to get stuck there. I was actually doing it right. You're supposed to use this little pin, drop the pin into the circular thing, and it'll knock into the pin, and then the pin will run into the ball and push the ball into the hole. And I'm like, wow, freaking serious? I solved this 30 minutes ago, and I did a bunch of unnecessary extra stuff that just made me angry.
Developers are just laughing at you.
So my point in sharing this, but first of all, I'm
you
glad
should
I
be
wasn't
streaming this. I think
I was gonna say I am so glad I wasn't streaming. The second of all is it goes back to kind of like what Kyle and Jeff were talking about. I think they talked about it on the show, or at least in the chat, that they're like, you know, I'm playing Jedi Survivor and I'm looking at these puzzles and I'm overthinking it, and the solution is always the simplest thing. And that's what I'm finding with a lot of these Zelda ones. Some rooms you walk into, you're like, how am I supposed to get up there with 2 bolts? Like, how do I do that?
Here's a pile of wood and a barrel and get up there. You're like,
I don't know what I'm doing. But a lot of times the solution is usually pretty simple. Like, and that's what I think is funny. It's almost like they over-show you stuff, so you get, like, anxiety, and then they're like, you just had to move that piece over, and then move that piece over, and you're good.
But what's actually fun about this game, too, and I think it speaks to sort of the I don't know if the word genius is too strong, but like there's a decent amount of the times where like you could, like, you were overcomplicating it, but you still could have solved it, and it's still kind of fun because you got super creative with it.
You did your own
and you
path to
solved
get
it.
there.
Like you basically didn't do what they kind of envisioned for you to do, and you still solved the thing. Because
I
that
was
definitely has happened to me a
pinning
couple times.
boards to the. So basically, when I say pin, they're like nails. So
Yeah.
I was attaching boards to the nails and plecking the nails into the
Almost
wall.
like Plinko.
So
Like Plinko?
yeah, but when the ball would hit it, it would knock the board off. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is ridiculous. And I'm yelling at the game. I'm like, you clearly want me to do this. Why are you stopping me? And the game's like, no,
I
actually,
didn't do anything.
I didn't actually want you to do that. You're just an idiot.
Derek's
So-
here making sure we don't get a PG-13 rating again. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that was 2 F-bombs.
You know what's funny? My son and I had a similar thing. It's right in the beginning island where you need to get from this island up, and there's like a track that half of it is missing a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
And we both solved that in very different ways. Like I asked him how he did it.
So there was a way to solve that? Because I was trying to look at it.
Yeah.
I was looking around and I was like, I don't think
I was getting a little frustrated, then I finally realized, oh, let me just do what I did on the last puzzles. Use those 2 hooks, hang the cart from underneath just the left side, put the fan on the back, and it zips you right out.
Okay, yeah.
So I just did like a little hanger solution. Well, he used those hooks and the fans to create a really lengthy like attachment on either side of on the right side. So like as he hit the gap, the hooks kind of held it in place as he hit that part, and it carried him right out. Like really creative. I didn't think about that, you know. But anyway, it is very, very cool to hear various ways of solving stuff, especially in the. I think the shrines, maybe there's usually a more specific path you kind of have to go, but in the open world, there's all kinds of ways to get up the cliff or whatever.
Dude,
what's nice about the shrines are, and this is the same from I guess the last game as well, is that they're usually only like 1.5 minutes to maybe 4 minutes long, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if you're beating your head against the wall on something, and like
45 minutes. 45
yeah,
minutes.
I mean,
one,
for you,
Kyle.
I give up in about 4 or 5 minutes and look up on YouTube. You know, so
here.
again, so if it gets too stressful, like, and you give up, just know that like you're gonna get out of this situation in 1 to 4 minutes. You know, you don't have to stress it too bad, because I think especially for me, like being such an anti-puzzle person in video games, you would think I would hate a game like this. It's like 80% puzzles and everything like that. But like I do like physics and mechanics and stuff like that.
Yes.
Even if I can't figure stuff out, being able to experience them, even though I am kind of cheating in a way by being told how to do them, is still entertaining to me to kind of watch the physics at play. One of my favorite puzzles I've solved so far is like putting like boards on the side of wheels that turn, like generator wheels that turn, and those are on another board, and they became paddle boards, and I had like a paddle board, so it's like huge, gigantic.
That's awesome.
It was so cool, and like it was just one of those things where I didn't get to that myself, but when I saw what he was doing immediately, once he put a couple pieces on, I was like, oh my god, I know what's going on here. Let me figure this out, and I can do the rest of it. And
I'm glad you said
really
that.
rewarding.
You don't have to go watch an entire guide from start to finish. You might just need the first 10 seconds to be like, got it.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of times,
just get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
sometimes you really are just trying to get a ball rolling.
When when you walk into a room, you might first be like I was saying, like what are you wanting me to do? And then if somebody shows you, and again, this isn't necessary. Some of them, it's like you walk in a room, you're like, you want me to tie these rockets to the cart, and then I'm going to shoot the cart across the room, which, by the way, that was a completely awesome shrine. Yeah. There's like 3 areas where you shoot yourself in a cart. But like stuff like that, some of them are real easy, which is cool. And then some of them you're like, dude, I don't know. And then you just watch a video, and then, I get what you're trying to get me to do. And then you can solve it on your own, which is cool too. But I'm the same way as Kyle. Like, I absolutely hate, for the most part, puzzles. But I don't think that I'm like making an exception for Zelda where I'm like, well, I'm putting up with it just because of, nostalgia, or I better like it because, reviewers said I like it. I actually have a lot of fun solving these.
Yeah.
And because of the nature of them being quick and not feeling like, God, I got to go through another puzzle. They're spaced out. Like I'm going through shrines. If I see it, I go. Like I'm not passing any of them, but I'm not actively like, that's not what I'm searching for. I'm exploring. And then when I run into them, I'm going to. So I'm doing about a shrine every 30 minutes to an hour in my gameplay. Because I think I'm like 10 to 12 hours in, and I've completed at least 14 or 15 shrines. So I'm doing about one every hour, one every 45 minutes. And so I enjoy them, and I've only gotten hung up on that one. Most of the other ones are pretty quick solutions, or if I get overwhelmed, I'll just YouTube it real quick. But yeah, they're necessary, and I don't mind doing them because they're tied to something that's important to me, and that's you can get healthier and get more hearts, or you can get more stamina.
This is this game's version of grinding. Like, hey, do you want to get more powerful? Go knock out 4 shrines. You'll get a whole nother heart, And I think that's that carrot on the stick. And this is the same as last game, But like that carrot on the stick is very alluring to me. And stamina is important, just in terms of your length ability of climbing and everything like that.
Yeah. What I love about the way they've designed it is, listen, I love a good linear game too, where it's like, hey, there's one solution and they're going to help you figure that one solution. That's it. But this is just a very unique experience where it's almost like as they're developing it, they're like, I bet you the gamer or the player is going to wonder, I wonder if I ... And they have a solution for most of those thoughts you might have. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, if you're on that glider, if you move to one side of the wing, you can steer it. I was like, oh, of course you can. Like little things like that.
Aerodynamics, baby.
You can put fans on the back of that glider and make it a plane.
Make it a plane,
right? So
that's literally that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
It's just it's out of control, and I love that. Like when you walk into an area and you're like, oh, there's like a pile of supplies there. It's like we want you to play here a little bit. So like it's not so open where it's crippling. We're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do if I don't have boards to solve this problem. There's usually always within walking distance a pile of something that the game's kind of like nudging you in the direction of like, come on, play, And I love that. I love that these soft nudges towards like being creative. Yeah,
like that third shrine in the snow on the tutorial island. I just played that one today because I just now landed on Hyrule. That's as far as I got. I'm very early on. But that third one when you're in the snow, I was like, I don't know how to get up here. I guess I'm just gonna cut down these trees and make a 4-log connection and lean it up against the side.
That's exactly
and climb up.
That's exactly.
I don't know if that's you're supposed to get up there, but
I've done that so many times.
That's not how I did
it. I continued to do that when I accidentally already got levitate also. So there was a way that I could easily just levitate up, but I'm still like, I don't know how to get up there. Let me build my classic 4-log solution here.
The 4-log.
And I could have
so funny. Instead of just going under the roof.
Yeah, I could have just elevated through the roof. I'm like, sometimes again, I'm overthinking it. There's a whole mechanic to get me beyond that. But
well, it's funny you say that because I was watching a guy who said that. He was talking about because he had already beat the game. He's like, remember to levitate. He's like, I am at the end of the game and I kept forgetting. It's the solution to a lot of things.
You mean the ascend move?
Yeah, the ascend.
You go through.
Like, is there a new move? Levitate?
Which is super sick, by the way. Like So speaking, compared to the first game, so there's abilities in the first game that you have, like picking things up, like sort of like telekinesis style. Yeah. So there's new ones in this one. And that one's just
way better in my opinion.
And it looks really cool. Like the animation of him almost kind of swimming, like this sort of spirally swimming thing, like through whatever the structure or whatever it is that he's going through, just looks super sick. And then he kind of pokes out, and you can kind of look around, and you can actually back out if you want, or you can proceed to then kind of surface your way up, and it's just really cool.
I'm a huge Recall fan as well. In the trailer it shows you like when you'll see a meteor fall down and hit, and like it's very obvious, and the game's kind of like, go over there, and you can walk over there and get on top of that meteor, a piece of rock, and then recall, and it'll go back up to its point of origin. Usually there's a island up there with a treasure chest. There's a small little island. And it's just that's the only way to get up there. I never
thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, Kyle, and I found an NPC that literally told me, I was like, oh, I had this weird dream about me jumping on one of those and it going back up because of yada yada. I was like, oh, that's what you're supposed. Like literally, the NPC had to tell me, but like it was in a creative way, right? She was like, oh, I had this weird dream, and I was like, okay, duh. Like, all right, that makes sense.
There's always a treasure chest up there. Always go. If you see one, walk over there. Yeah.
What's the wackiest weapon you guys have fused so far?
Oh my god.
A lizard tail on top of a goblin's arm. So when I use like a goblin's arm, the lizard tail will like unravel and like so it's like a whip.
That's so cool.
And it is so strong.
Yeah. Well, I had a skeleton arm.
Like a skeleton arm. Not a
I had the flailing skeleton arm on a sword, and it was just flailing about.
Yeah, so I got that and put the lizard tail on top of that, and that's how I got
You can do this early, and again, I'm earlier, so I haven't had as many options. But the craziest one I've made is when you attach a cart to your weapon.
Oh, I haven't done that. What is it?
Wait,
just like a big mallet?
It's like a big hammer.
Did you say a cart? Like a whole ass cart?
Yeah,
like a mine cart. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Ooh,
I put a glider on my shield, and I didn't quite learn if I could use it as a glider.
Sure.
But like I attached it to my shield, and it turned my shield into the glider, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. So it was like this big, like eagle-looking shield.
I accidentally put a claymore on my shield, which that's not like exciting. It was just stupid. Like I'm running around with a shield with a claymore on. I'm like, it's not helping. It's not doing it.
I like how the game doesn't even stop you from doing it. It's like, I guess if you want to, go ahead, dummy.
It increases the stat, but it just looks silly. The sword just on the shield like that.
Yeah.
I had a red pepper on my shield too, and like literally, you hit it once, and the red pepper like blows up. And I put a red pepper on my sword. Same thing. It just goes away after one swing.
I like that dragon head looking thing that spits fire, and you can put that on your shield, and then you have like the shield that spits fire.
Anytime you hold the shield up, it just launches fire.
You can get more of those heads from those dispensaries. So make sure you're always using those. Like,
here's the cool thing that I saw, and this goes back to, like I said, like this is just a huge playground.
Yeah.
And I think the people that hate on this game really miss the point of the game. It's a journey, it's an adventure, and it's just go do what you want. Like, yeah, there's a story or whatever, but it's about playing with stuff. But I saw this guy, and I'm doing it now. So I got a horse, and then I leveled up not leveled up, but you do stuff for the wherever you keep the horses or whatever. I'm forgetting
stable,
things.
yeah.
The stable.
The
you do that,
points?
you earn like rewards or points, right? And then the
pony
next
points.
Yes,
Very
pony
cool.
points.
Pony points.
Yes,
and then yes, that is a dig. That's Nintendo making a dig at ponies.
Pony points.
Sure.
And so, anyways, you get like this thing for your horse that like hangs behind it, so you can carry things. Like you can
tow,
attach...
like it's a tow attachment. Yeah.
So what this guy did is he went and got like these laser heads, and he attaches the lasers to them, and they're ran by the energy. So you can, while you're on your horse, you can shoot the lasers with your arrow, and the lasers will start shooting the enemies while you're running around on your horse. And he's like, and you can get off and you can detach it, and you can literally carry it with like the force. So you're not actually holding it in your hand. You're just carrying, like lifting it.
Oh my
And you can just demolish enemies because it's just lasering them and
that's
just
amazing,
blowing up entire areas.
I just before I actually hopped on, I saw really quick. I didn't watch the whole thing because I kind of want to try to do it at some point. Clearly, you need a lot of like whatever the energy cells or like the battery pack thing, because there was a lot of the little symbols of the batteries. Dude built a freaking mech essentially.
What?
He built a mech, and then he used the ascend thing to like ascend through the bottom of it to the top where there was a platform, and he was standing on it, and the arms are just firing lasers like.
I don't know, man. That video again, you share that. That's amazing.
I don't know, man. like I don't know where this game's insane. This game's insane.
I'm lucky if I can build a boat that moves straight across the water.
Yeah, I know. I'm just not that inventive, so it's hilarious watching people create all this stuff and how it impacts the game. And like I said, this game is hard, by the way. Like I don't know if you guys have died a lot, but I only have 4 hearts.
Yeah, same here.
I'm focusing on stamina, and like I get one shot at it all the time. Like I'll go in an area and dude will just go boop, and I'm like, thanks, bro. Now I gotta redo this whole thing. But the reason I'm sharing this is even though it's really hard, there are always workarounds. So I'll go and do something, and I learn every time I die. I know this is gonna sound like Souls stuff, but it's different. Like you're not getting better at the combat, you're getting smarter. And so you find like, oh, okay, he killed me this way. Maybe if I approach him from this angle and use this weapon instead, or maybe if I use like my use fire through my arrows or something like that. Like
I had to freeze
your attack stronger.
Once I started freezing a guy, then I was like, oh, then I can beat him pretty easily. I just have to freeze him. Things like that.
There's just I love the plant bombs. I use those on like boss fights. I'll like attach the bomb to my arrow, shoot it, it blows up. Like I just killed like a boss goblin because I'm I'm at an area where I think I'm going into what will be my first temple or whatever.
Did you go northeast or northwest? Where'd you go south?
Northwest.
You went northwest.
I'm with all the birds and stuff, like the falcons.
Yeah, that's the bird people from the first game.
Yeah.
Which everything, like, it's still the same map, So like northwest is the bird people, and you have Mount.
That means the
Mount
game sucks,
Doom or whatever, up in the northeast.
Game's terrible. It's the same game.
Copy and paste. Copy and paste. Same thing.
It's
19 frames.
Well, yeah, I
second.
get it. It looks so strange and alien because like I've been to this area before, and it didn't look like that. You didn't spend a lot of time in Central Hyrule, whereas like that's like the hub of the game, which it sounds like there's a couple of people that are behind the rest of us, and this is just a tip, it's not a spoiler, but like finish the main story all the way until you unlock the tower like mechanism, because like you don't want to stumble across the tower and do a whole bunch of work and then not be able to turn it on to get it as a fast travel point.
Yeah.
So just and it's really quick. It's like after you land on Hyrule, the very next thing that you do is like
isn't that where you get like the glide anyways?
And that's you want to get the paraglider too.
You want to get the paraglider.
It unlocks all your mechanics, and then like that's a good spot to like start.
Then you can just go do whatever you want.
Yeah. I started exploring way quick, and I came across 2 towers and didn't catch until the second one. Then I'm like, I can't turn these on for whatever reason because I didn't.
That's a good tip. That's a time saver right there.
Yeah, it's wasted a whole bunch of time for me.
So, Jeff, you haven't been a huge Zelda gamer for really any of the games, but you're playing this one. You're giving it a whirl. What are your thoughts so far?
I'm still going back to it. That should tell you I don't hate it.
There you go.
I don't hate it.
That should say a lot, because like just imagine you guys grew up. It sounds like all of you grew up playing Zelda games.
Mm-hmm.
So just imagine that you didn't, just for like a second, and like
I don't want to imagine it.
And then
I don't want to picture that.
I know it's
a dark, scary childhood.
But like, I don't know. That's a childhood full of doom, dude. That's what that is.
You didn't get a crash course in light versus dark, dude.
I didn't.
You don't know the difference between Ganon and Ganondorf, brother.
Yeah, dude. Ganon's a pig and Ganondorf's a sexy human. So, well,
that's right.
That's a good-looking dude.
That's some daddy energy, brother.
Yeah, internet daddy.
It's just an interesting thing, especially now that I'm very aware of reviews, because I'm not just because I'm in the group and on this podcast, but because of social media. I'm aware of how these games are being received, so I'm going into these games going, so if I don't get a 10 out of 10 experience, then I'm wrong? Is that what's going on? So yes. I'm trying to let that go and just let me experience it the way I should,
I've
feel.
Done that before. Basically. It's a little defensive. I felt that way going into some games before. That I'm
where I'm like, everybody's telling it. Nearly
you better wow me. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have clowns that are on the completely extreme side of the spectrum that are throwing these stupid bullet points at you that are just uneducated about FPS and graphic quality. And I'm like, no, I'm not part of your audience either. I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate this game.
Go in the unlock group. I'm not exaggerating. This guy literally made a post where he did the bullet point of what Zelda is, the 19 frames per second, 720p.
Sure.
And compared it against Redfall and said, see, there's a bias. I'm like, dude, I played both. Dude, come on. Can we not make this like Microsoft gets shitted on and Nintendo gets away with everything? Like, that was so bad. So bad. His name, by the way, was Burger Casserole. So
much like with every topic that you develop an opinion on, there's like no room for nuance sometimes with some games. I'm not saying I don't like it, because I haven't played it long enough to fully form like a score-based opinion, even though I don't want to really do that. But my point is that I am just before the 3rd shrine, and I'm really having a good time with it because there is a linearity to the training, I guess you would call it training, whatever.
You're in the tutorial area.
Tutorial island,
like 3 hours long.
Yeah, but like there's those constant context clues environmentally that Kyle pointed out, where it's like they're throwing stuff at you, and sometimes, in like Derek's case in that one shrine, sometimes the stuff they're throwing at you is a misdirect, and they really want you to do one simple thing. And but I'm not there yet. Obviously, in the tutorial island, it's kind of like, no, we put that there for a reason. We want you to use this ability and attach these 2 things together in a very specific way to get you across the lake or across this thing. Like they're explaining it to you and without explaining it to you. So I think all that stuff is really brilliant. Combat is take it or leave it for me, but I don't. I'm not I don't think that the Zelda games, at least the current era of Zelda games, are like, look at how good the melee is. I don't think it's trying to be Star Wars Jedi, whatever. Like, I don't think it's trying to be those type of arcadey, precision-based type of things. It's just more about what the arsenal that you bring in with you. And
it's more to me about strategy than it is about like your reflexes
or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
there are, and I don't know if you've learned yet, and it's very hard, but there is a tutorial. It's in one of the shrines, so you'll learn it. But try to master it if you can. But there's dodge abilities that once you learn how to do that, it basically freezes the opponent, and then you can go in and just melee like 80 times.
Yeah, it's like
you know what I do?
Devil May Cry or something.
The combat system is how you can stun them, and they drop their weapons, and they're like, "Oh shit!" I love the scrambling.
They're scrambling around for it.
Yeah.
But it's so totally more about like using your brain, and that was what I was talking about earlier. Like they're gonna throw waves of enemies that you shouldn't be fighting, or you're definitely gonna lose to if you have 3 or 4 hearts, or even if you have 6. But if you go into it going, okay, I totally screwed up. I know what I'm facing. Now let me see if there's another way around. How can I avoid them, or is there another way I can kill them? I think that's the genius of the combat. Is I find satisfaction, and once I'm like, oh, I outsmarted you. I mean, you killed me 75 times, but I outsmarted you.
So in a way,
and
the combat is its own separate puzzle, but it's a very different.
Yeah, because it's really complex.
That's a good way to. It's a good way to look at it.
There are moves that send you up in the air, and then you can pull your arrows out, and it'll slow down everything, and you can like
if
pull
you're on
off
your
some real
glider,
shots.
It's the glider.
You know, there's a lot of different like dodging mechanics. So there's a lot of fluidity. If you're like zoned in on one character, you know, you can do some side steps and a back hop and stuff like that.
You can parry.
The amount of times I've had a big mace swung at like my feet that hit the ground, and I've like back flipped over it. Like, you know, I don't always do it. I'm not a perfect guy at this game, you know, but like when you land it, you know, it's just like, whoa!
Ooh! I mean, it's just like
Derek said,
Jedi
like,
Survivor coming out when it did right before this game, and me beating it. It feels like a great comparison for a lot of what's going on in Zelda. But obviously, Zelda is leaning even harder into the "you figure it out" camp. But Jedi Survivor did have a lot of those moments those combat moments where you feel incredibly badass for dodging a certain move at a certain time. Or especially later on in the game when there's a final ability you unlock that's you just decimate people with. And there's also those puzzle moments too, where you're in a room and you're like, so I just stand here? What does the game want me to do? And you have to YouTube it, and it's the same strategy that you guys have, or the same logic where you pull up the video and you're like, you just need to see 1 second, and you're like, oh, okay, got it. Shut up, video, I got it.
Shut up.
So it's kind of the same thing, but on a much, much larger scale. And I'm also trying not to let I wouldn't call it noise, but people describing, like all of you describing your experiences, feel overwhelming, because there's a lot going on in this game, and there's a lot of choice, and I want to just approach it like I'm just trying to live in it as I'm playing it, basically, and not be like, well, eventually I'm gonna have to do X, Y, Z to.
Yeah, that's the thing is, anything you hear online, you never have to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just like, and that's the same as the last game as well. It's just like, where you hear people, like you probably hear me sliding on my shield everywhere, and you're like, what? You never have to do that. Not even once.
It's true.
You know, the people that I'm almost a little jealous of in a lot of ways are the people who this is their game they're buying until maybe Christmas. Like, this is their only game.
Yeah, they're not going to play anything else.
And like, they have all the time in the world, and every time the game they're going to sit down and play this. Whereas I'm thinking like, okay, can I get it done in time? Like, do I want to play some Diablo 4 in a couple weeks? Like, oh no, there's a new V Rising update this week. Like, I'm already thinking about how much can I get done before the next thing comes out.
Where are you guys at? Are y'all trying to like? Because this feels like a game where I feel like I'm gonna play a lot, you know, these next few weeks. But obviously, I'm not gonna beat, and it's gonna be probably something I'm gonna come
play
back
it throughout
to
the rest of the year, like I did Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's kind of because I think I built Breath of the Wild.
That's what I'm gonna do, because I'm noticing as I'm watching something passively or even paying attention to it, I can still pay attention as I'm playing Zelda, because it's a more passive experience. But I am noticing that I go, I want to put on some Zelda, and I just grab my Switch and like, so it's gonna be that type of game for me pretty much throughout the rest of the year, like Tim is saying. Because
if you walk 100 steps in a direction, you're gonna hit like a shrine, and you know what I mean. Like, so it's really easy to be like, okay, well, next time I'll stop playing right now. Next time
do they all have the glow?
I can just go right on the shrine.
The tutorial shows you they all have a glow, so it's obvious.
What's actually nice is to, from up high somewhere, kind of scout around.
They do have a glow. Yeah.
Scout around. You can tag them.
is approach the game. I said Elden Ring, and I still agree that it's very Elden Ring-ish, but I'm not going to use Elden Ring as an example because that could also be like, well, is it really that hard? And do I have to fight all these boss? It's not that type
I knew
of
exactly
experience.
what you meant when you said
Okay.
it. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. But I think the way I go into this game, this is how I'm going into it, and I would highly recommend it for you, is go into it like this is a Skyrim experience. Nobody goes and plays Skyrim and goes, I need to get through the main story. I need to see the ending. Nobody does that. They just jump into the world and they're like, okay,
Start
what can I
walking.
experience?
You're awake.
I'm just on a
There's
journey.
there's like
You're
8
awake.
missions in the main campaign of Skyrim. So like if you just did the main story, you'd be done with that game in like 15
They're
hours.
like, why does
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
love this so
exactly.
much? It's
Yeah,
so short.
yeah. Who spends 400 hours on this game?
It's kind of the same with Zelda. If you
Am I
mainline it and
amazing?
ignore the optional shrines, you just like finish it in 20 or 30 hours, and you're like, why was everybody?
Well,
Yeah.
Like,
apparently
it was
you could beat
fun,
this game
but
in 94
okay.
minutes. So
94
I
minutes,
mean,
yeah.
True.
That was another one of their bullet points. Game of the year, 94 minutes to beat
All right,
it.
so
Yeah.
I do want to
Come on,
address
man.
the thing that kind of, and I understand the criticism of the Switch. It's a 7-year-old hardware, no, 6-year-old hardware. I get it, and people are like, well, there's tablets that are more powerful. That's true. I hear what you're saying, but I've already taken probably 6 or 7 screenshots in my first. I've only played the game for maybe 2 hours, 3 hours total. Like I haven't had a ton of time with it yet. And I've already taken several screenshots. Now, are there moments that I'm kind of like, yeah, those textures are pretty bland, and they used an art style that allows them to have a flatter surface and make everything else work and look well. I've even had a couple moments where I had a lot of things attacking me that I was like, I'm no frame rate expert, but I'm pretty sure it dipped there for a second during some crazy stuff.
It
But it wasn't
only
bad. It was-
significantly dips if you've got like 8 or 9. There is one part like, and you guys will run into it. It's not a spoiler or anything, but there's this guy you meet on the main story, and then later you can run into him for an
Such a good
optional
side
mission.
mission. It's so good.
It's super cool because
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
hey, I'm going over here to clear out this camp, and I'm like, ooh, Far Cry, okay, let's do this. So you go
Tower?
over to the camp and you clear them out, but there's like 8 or 9 guys fighting in this little area, and it will dip while
Good
you
guys
get
and
fighting.
bad guys. There's like
Yes.
there's actually like 20 people like in the
There's
area.
probably
that- yeah.
Little
more
battle.
because it's a
Mhm.
full-on battle.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it will
It
dip
was
when it's
super cool.
doing
I've never
that.
seen anything like this in a Zelda game. Yeah.
But I have not experienced any dips outside of if there's a
not
lot.
in normal play. Yeah.
No.
I feel like whenever something's on fire or a big explosion happens,
A lot of
recognize the
freezing,
dip.
like the
Yeah.
freezing effect kind of made it dip for a second.
Mm.
There was like 6 enemies around, and one of them did like it was one of those ice blobs or whatever, froze
Yeah.
like a bunch of us, and it kind of dipped there for a second during that freezing enemy because there was too many enemies that were being frozen.
This game is massive. Like I mean, Breath of the
Yeah,
Wild was
it is.
already insane, right? Like it's like, how did something like this squeeze inside a tablet
This
type
is-
of?
This is like
bigger.
3 times
True.
bigger than Breath of the
Yeah,
Wild
'cause you
because
have
like
the
there's
sky
a
now.
sky area that's just as
Like-
big, and then there's a chasm area that's just as big.
And there's
There's
no loading
caverns
between
and-
areas,
And
right?
there's
You're
no
just-
loading,
Yeah.
man.
You only
Not at
load
all,
with like
you know?
the
So-
shrines,
yeah.
but
Yeah, right. But no,
I
the
do
open
wanna
world
say
though,
this.
you can fall from the highest point of the map
Yeah.
to the lowest point of the map into
No
the cave
load.
areas, and there's no loading.
So I
Yeah.
do want to say this as the resident like graphics whore, like I'm real like petty and I nitpick everything to death. And I know some listeners are gonna be like, Derek, you're just a fanboy. You're not gonna be real. I promise you,
Nintendo colored glasses he's wearing.
yeah, I would nitpick this game because I'm actually playing it more on my TV or my monitor, I should say, than I am in handheld mode.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
when Tim started talking about it in handheld, I was like, all right, let me go check it out. And I was impressed. Handheld, it does look good.
Yeah.
But on
Even on
my
original
monitor,
Switch, I'll say on handheld it looks, because that's the
It
one I
looks
have
nice.
for now.
Yeah.
but on my monitor, and again, this is where I don't think people will believe me, but I promise I'm not lying. So I went and got a 1080p monitor, or I already owned it, but I went and picked it up, set it up, hooked up my my Switch to it, and I started playing it, and I messed with the settings, turned some sharpness up and all this stuff. This game looks absolutely gorgeous. I know Jeff was saying that he was running into where he could see
I didn't do what you did though. I didn't adjust any settings.
yeah, I'm not seeing any of that. Like it looks absolutely beautiful. Like
Yeah.
this
I
game
just
runs
noticed
good.
Blurriness.
The
but,
color palette looks great. It's
Yeah.
very clean.
Yep.
Both in handheld and again, just I can only speak to my experience on my monitor. It's very clean. The 30 frames per second, in my opinion, this is not a shooter because I complained about Redfall justifiably, because it is a shooter and it was literally yanking me. This game, yes, when I'm aiming with my bow and arrows, sometimes I can feel the aiming, but they gave me a fix too. That's in the game. It's not like me like breaking the game. And that's, hey, attach an eyeball to your
It's a homing
arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes a homing arrow
So cool.
if the enemy is difficult to shoot. Like if the enemy's standing still, that 30 frames per second doesn't bother. But if I'm like trying to like catch up to something, yeah, it can. But overall performance and visually, and yes, I'm gonna use this word and I mean it, this is a stunning looking game. Like the art style is gorgeous. It runs great. It looks great. Sure, I agree. Would I love it to be on a Switch Pro? Absolutely. But they released it on the Switch, and I feel like they did a good job. And I heard they used the Xenoblade Chronicles guys to help them make this open world.
They were
and make
part
it...
of the first one too.
Oh,
yeah,
did they?
so that makes sense. Yeah.
So these guys know how to do it.
Sorcery.
They know how to make
Monolith
these.
Soft came in, for a couple reasons
That's
for the first
cool.
one.
I didn't
and this
know
game.
that. That's
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. You can see it, right?
Yeah,
You can see the
absolutely.
epic
Yeah.
scope that Xenoblade games have too is here. You know, the moment that caught me, because I think the setting in the first few islands is very kind of like it's kind of a nice autumn setting with that one little wintry area, and lots of really cool oranges and browns. It looks very nice, and the sky looks cool. Like and I was just thinking, hey, this is a nice looking game. And it wasn't until I cleared that island.
Yeah.
And the clouds part, I was like, that looks really good. And you can see the whole land below you, and you dive and you land, and just the way the light's hitting in Hyrule, and you can see in the distance. I was like, how? How does this game look this good? I have no idea. Like, that was just my initial impression. Again, I'm playing on
I think
OLED
it's because they're absolutely maxing out the hardware.
They have to be.
Yeah, but in a way that it's working and not like Pokemon
in a way that it's
from, like,
working
6
and
months
not
ago.
crashing.
Pokemon, yeah.
And,
You know
and,
who
like,
needed
and
to...
Pokemon arguably makes more money as a franchise.
Yeah.
than, like, that crack team.
Oh no, it absolutely. It's the highest. Whatever grossing like property
IP
in the IP in the world. In the world.
Monolith
I thought it was
should
like
have
just Japan. Okay.
Monolith team
even
should have
think-
swung by the Game Freak offices.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think Pokemon is visually even close to being as stunning.
No,
Meaning, I don't think
this
there's
is-
as much going on. So there's really no excuse
I
for them
couldn't.
to have
There is that. This
issues.
game is more ambitious tenfold than Pokemon.
Yeah.
And the reason that how that game ran at like 4 frames per second at some points, like it makes no sense to me.
But I still had fun.
Um,
So bananas.
Yeah, I still had a great
think it
time,
is
dude. I
because
caught
they know-
most of them, not all of them, most of them.
I think it's because they know that with Zelda that they can't afford the blemish, whereas Pokemon
Yeah.
it's like we'll just keep
Well,
releasing 2 or 3,
yeah.
or 2 or
It's
1 or
mostly
2 a year.
kids.
Talk
don't
about
care.
that. Like, when's the last
Yeah.
time a game has come out that has worked this well? Like, nobody is talking about it, not except for the people who are like read the false headlines.
That's
about
true.
It, like,
That's
running at
true.
12.
Like every
This is the
conversation has been about glitches with big AAA releases.
Yeah, for
this year.
years, and I don't know how long it's been since the last time we had a game that was this functional on release. Like, I don't know. Like, do you guys remember what the last one? Can y'all think of it?
It was probably a Nintendo game, to be honest with
I
you.
know
Maybe.
the
Yeah.
goalpost is different, obviously,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of the hardware and what they're actually trying to do with the animation style. But like, it's still considering how massive the game is. It is.
Yeah,
on the
it's
old
crazy.
ass hardware.
I think I remember maybe
it's
Xenoblade
so
Chronicles 3.
impressive.
Me and Derek both said, "Hey, this game's not crashing, isn't that fun?" So like
Right.
that.
Right.
So maybe that was the last
I've
one.
had it
but-
for less high profile games. Like I felt, well, I guess this is high profile. I thought Resident Evil 4 ran great, but maybe others.
Oh,
Oh,
didn't.
there you go. No, that's.
I didn't have any issues at all.
I
don't think-
had
That's
zero
the
issues
issue,
with that
and
game.
I
Metroid
think,
Prime, right?
I think
So-
Capcom doesn't get celebrated enough for how high quality most of their games
Oh,
arrive.
that's a good call, Tim.
Yeah.
Capcom
That's
really
a
did
good
that.
call.
I
Except
think
when they take their
Hi-Fi
games
Rush
away because of ray tracing, there's like, we're just
Yeah,
gonna
that's true.
remove the game.
Maybe even the Dead
smaller-
Space remake. I don't remember hearing a lot
I
of
don't
like,
hear-
"Oh, this
no
game is so
issues, that's
broken." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's why they're doing remakes. That's the only ones they can get right. They're like, oh, it's already
Well,
done.
And let's get real, guys. This game is basically just a remake of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, right.
It is.
Yeah.
Gosh,
Yeah.
it feels
Massive.
We're all
different
apologists.
from that game. It
This
feels so
DLC is
different from that game.
huge.
You know what's
I
funny
am a
is
Nintendo
huge.
cuck. I've always been a Nintendo cuck. So.
the
Makes sense.
comparison, and it makes sense to have this, is from Ocarina of Time over to Majora's Mask, right? Same
Yeah.
engine, like similar, like same world, like similar look and
Such
feel.
different games, though.
But very different games,
Yep.
even though there were some core gameplay elements, even the button layouts. You're like, yes, I'm familiar
Yeah,
with
yeah,
this.
Well, even
So-
the assets were reused but they're just reused in a spooky way. So like the whole vibe was different. Yeah.
I think that's also part of like the story and lore of that game, and there's theories about that. How it's like people had said that it's like actually like him dreaming, like it's actually a dream that he's having,
well,
and
it's him
that's
going
why
through
there's
the
all
7
these
stages of grief or whatever.
And like that's why the characters are the same. Like there's literally the same characters showing up in this place that obviously was not the same as
people that you met. Yeah.
So I think it's an apt comparison here, where it's like, yes, the core feel and gameplay, the way it feels to lock onto an enemy, to jump attack, like those things are all still there from Breath of the Wild. Absolutely. Even like the sound when you pick up an item, like those things are the core things are still there, but overall the gameplay, the powers you get, the way you can now interact with the environment, it to me feels very, very different. But
even as you explore, as you go through like Hyrule, I feel like the complaints that Breath of the Wild was empty. Sure, okay, whatever. If you want to complain about that, that wasn't a big deal to me. But you're right. But in this game, I am running into a lot of people, and they're giving me they're giving me so many quests that I'm starting to go.
Wild.
Bro, I was I was like, I'm trying to I was trying to do everything, and now you're just giving me more, and then most quests, even side quests, aren't just do this and you're done. Some of them are like that, but some of them have multiple layers. Like I'm doing one now, and clearly it's above my level. I think I went into an area that's a little bit harder, but it's this quest that they're like, hey, I saw Zelda, and so this girl's like, well, I'll give you this frog armor set if you leak this news story for me. Give me some more
armor set.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
But there's like, you have to make her happy before you can do that, and you have to follow like 3 leads. And I did one of them, which took a long time, and the last, like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the ending of it was actually kind of a nice little twist. And you have like a boss battle, was very hard, and I'm like, this bee better be giving me at least one part of this set. And she's like, oh, good job with that, now go to this next area. I'm like, what? You're not even going to give me part of the set? She's like, yeah, not until I'm happy I'll give you one piece. So there's multiple like layers to these quests, and then there's rewards.
Story of Derek's life.
Yeah.
Trying to make the ladies happy. He's like, you better give this to me, B.
Better. But there's a lot going on here. There's way more going on in this game, and that's why I appreciate that. I'm okay with them using the same world, and I think Kyle just said it. Yeah, it might be the same map, but it's not the same map.
I actually prefer it this way in this case, because it's like
go in the areas that you've been to before and tell me they look exactly the same.
I haven't. They don't. Not
like
to me.
To me, this feels like, and it's insane thinking about it, because again, Breath of the Wild is so crazy huge. Like this is just the second half of what they envisioned. Like, and maybe it's not. Maybe they really were just like, yeah, we made Breath of the Wild, but it's like, that sold crazy, so make another one. But it just kind of feels like a part 2. Like it feels like this is like what is the second half of what they kind of intended, but they were like, oh, like this game's already huge, this is part 1, now we're gonna do part 2. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, it makes sense that we're on the same map. I don't understand. Again, I think people that are complaining really aren't playing this game. No, I know that guy that made the post on Xbox. He is not playing Zelda.
They're going based off videos and screenshots and what they hear about it.
Literally, that's comparing side by side. Like, well, the map's the same. It's like, yeah, because you're still in Hyrule,
you have to get your hand on the controller and play it. And from what you guys are describing, from once you're into Hyrule and going through areas, like this feels very different. Whereas the first game, I thought there were awesome things to do and enemies to take on, but a lot of it really was, I liked exploring the big, expansive world that I wasn't getting interrupted with quests and people all the time. Yeah, but now I'm kind of looking forward to being like tasked with lots of stuff. So
and you still get kind of the best of both worlds. But that's what's an interesting take that you just said about the last game, Tim, is that like it's not really about like going somewhere so a check mark gets marked off somewhere. It's just about getting there, it looking cool, something you do there is cool, like fighting a boss, and you're just taking that memory with you and moving on. There's no reason for it to happen other than that you were just there at the right time in the right place. Maybe that thing isn't there whenever it's raining during the day. Maybe it's only there at night. And that's when you stumbled upon it, you know?
Yep.
So it's like, and so while that's still there in this game too, there's still a little more guidance. So it's like maybe there's a quest that maybe gets you up there now, or it kind of steers you to the direction where certain things like spawn naturally and stuff. So I feel like it still doesn't strip away too much of the magic, but like I kind of welcome that there is a more direct quest and stuff like that in this game, and more plentiful because there were in the last game. They're way more in this game, I'd say.
I feel like there's more direction in this game, even without there being direction. Like
I
you
don't even
can
think
still.
It's totally optional direction.
Yeah.
I don't even think Breath of the Wild was empty. I think people who say that just like don't
They
like.
didn't
Just
play
want-
it.
There are plenty of
Wandering in a
quests
direction.
tucked away.
They
like,
didn't play it.
Yeah.
in certain
They
parts
didn't
of that
play it.
game. Like,
It's
It's
just
definitely not empty. No.
It's not
There's
empty at all.
nobody that I've met, unless they were lying, that has played Breath of the Wild from beginning to the end and said, "Game's empty, gameplay's flat, it's boring, it got graded on a curve, it's nostalgia." I've not met somebody who's actually beat the game.
Played it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's always people that played it for like 5 hours and they were like, the weapons kept breaking, the level's empty, this is overrated trash.
I actually Googled. This is, you guys are gonna laugh at this. I Googled "I don't get Zelda." I literally Googled that, and I found a thread from Breath of the Wild where one of the guys was genuinely like saying, "I don't know what to do about weapons breaking. I'm trying to save them, and blah blah blah." And every one of the comments, in the nicest way possible, were like, "The developers want your weapons to break. Like you need to play how it's designed. It's designed." Like, don't worry about them breaking. You'll find a new one. Like, that's the point.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the fused solution in this game is a brilliant response to the weapons breaking, because
Yeah,
everything in your inventory is valuable now. It's so
true.
cool.
There's a contextual reason for it too, because like there's this thing called the gloom happening, which is like that like red junk that's like everywhere. Yeah. And like that's corroded every weapon across Hyrule, you know.
I wanted to say, like, from an aesthetic point of view, like I'm not like taking away points from the game whatsoever, but from an aesthetic point of view, it's actually kind of annoying because I'm picking up all like what would normally look like really sick ass swords, and like they're all just gross and rusty looking now, and it's like, oh, come on, give me a sick ass sword.
What Kyle said though is if you go underground, there are pristine weapons. So it's really actually pretty cool that like if you
when you come across a real weapon that's not corroded, like it's really nice, And like I got to be honest, when I first saw the fuse mechanic, I was like, this looks stupid to me, and like I'm like, and I knew I was the only one, so that's why I haven't voiced it until now, because I know I'm wrong, and
the rock on the end of a sword looks stupid.
No, I'm like, I don't want to put peppers on my sword, so I like mace them as
it looks dumb.
Like, that's
it looks very dumb.
Pepper sword. You don't want a pepper sword?
Yeah, I think that's dumb to me. Like I just want a sword. I don't want a big rock at the top of it. Like I just want a cool claymore. I don't want like a dumb thing on it. But I have come around in a big way. I just don't care anymore. And now that I've like grown accustomed to being like, hey, no, it's part of the world where like we're just gonna savage our way through this world without weapons. And I don't know. I'm getting into the whole RP of it all. If you will, where I'm like,
so this
I'm really
is the
getting
MacGyver
into it. Where I'm picking up weird body
Zelda.
parts and putting things on them. And I'm gonna murder people.
Just glue
with it,
a tampon to the sword. Problem solved.
And to turn it into a bomb sword, tampon bomb sword.
Bloody hell!
It's gonna be fun to hear over the next several weeks and probably months. You know, knowing how we jump from game to game, what we discover and how things go. At some point, maybe later in the year, when a couple of us have finished it, I could see us doing some sort of spoiler cast. But we can circle back to it as you guys play it. So feel free to bring it up in upcoming episodes. I'll be talking about it more. But what an awesome game.
Speaking of that, later on in the game stuff, a lot of the reviews that I did watch or read excerpts of emphasize that like the finale is just amazing.
No, so, like, I didn't hear any of that.
One of the best like Zelda finales, period. A lot of that type of talk. So that further emphasizes Derek's point about
that Zelda's
if you didn't finish it,
got it.
And you're just
if
you didn't finish it, then and you're kind of like complaining, like beginning to end. You didn't beginning to end it. And you're like, well, it's just the same game or whatever. Like, you just sound really uneducated. Like,
I'm actually glad you brought that up because I just real quick, and then we can move on.
Breath of the Wild was epic at the end too.
I want to call out David Jaffe because he is an idiot sometimes. This dude did a freaking show.
99% of the time.
And he was basically saying, and it had to do with Zelda. He was talking about the 6 out of 10 review. I don't know if the guy beat the game because I didn't read his review.
It's by the way, I'll just say it real quick. It sounds like a legit review, and some of the things, the qualms that he has with it, he had with Breath of the Wild or understood.
He doesn't like puzzles.
Oh, is this the guy who made the really low score? That's like
it was a 6 out of 10. But if you read the review, it's like that sounds like a 6 or 7 out of 10 to somebody the way they're describing it. So like I wasn't mad about it. I was more.
No, I wasn't mad. I'm not addressing that review. I'm just giving
my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I'm glad it's not a troll review though.
No, it feels like
I think he just hated. I think he hates puzzles basically. But like David Jaffe's like, I think if you beat 2 bosses in a game, and I know he was talking about like divine dragons or whatever, and you don't like it, you can 100% review this game. You're right. Yes, but if you work for a professional like magazine or site or whatever, I think you should have to finish it, and here's why. Because most games,
I think so too,
has a story or they have in-game mechanics that can change a game. I understand from his perspective, he's thinking from a developer standpoint that if I can't hook you to get you to play the whole game, that's my fault, and I deserve a low score. He said that 1,000 times, so I know that's what he's saying. But I'm looking at it from a reviewer standpoint, I think if you're going to be able to review a product, you should be able to review it from beginning to end. At least the main like core of what the game is. Like if they have a main story, exactly. Yeah. I have a problem with you saying it's totally okay for a quitter to review something. So what if I just decide to quit? Like if I'm a professional reviewer, I mean, me on this podcast, nobody cares about. But if I was a professional reviewer that's going to go on Metacritic and I play Jedi Survivor for like 3 hours and I'm like, you know what? I just don't like this type of game. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I don't think you can take somebody serious that way. And that's my issue is you're giving a free pass to people that are not finishing the game.
Well, Derek, even more than that, think about the percentage of what someone, like if you play 4 or 5 hours of one of these 2 Zelda games, the most recent ones, Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, let's say you play a handful of hours. Let's say it's even 5 hours. What percentage of the content have you experienced? And how would that translate over to a game like Jedi Survivor, which is a much shorter game compared to Zelda, just in terms of the amount of content that's there. You might have played that for 20 minutes if you just do like the ratio of like percentage. So you're going to tell me that a 20-minute playthrough of a smaller game is fair to make it. Like I just think that's a ridiculous.
Oh yeah, if you scale.
And again, I'm strictly
like
talking about a professional review.
I am too, Derek, because I think if it's a person saying I'm writing this game off. If someone says I played 3, 4, 5 hours and I'm not interested, I know I'm not going to play it. That's we all do that.
If you're a YouTube reviewer, you're reviewing it as a personality, not on like the behalf of like a professional company. You know what I mean?
And you should just say that, like, hey guys, I stopped playing after this time, and here's like I'm giving you a whatever score. Like you don't need to play it.
Perspective, you know.
Yeah, just be clear about that. I'm with you there 100%.
Should be right in the beginning.
I mean, I can't get mad about a handful of, and in this case, really one kind of low score. If you look at Metacritic, I think it's the only one under 80, I think.
Yes, he is the only one under 80.
That happened with Get Out too. Like it was 100%, and then one guy came in and was like, "Oh, it's not that good."
I don't know, dude. My white guilt kind of kicked in halfway through the movie, and I didn't like it too much.
I didn't like this at all. This is just like my family reunions.
Oh jeez.
I had one last question about Zelda, specifically for Dan. Dan, you just played Breath of the Wild. You just played this one. Do you notice any sort of like graphical increase or anything like that? Just being the person probably only here who played both within the last, 72 hours.
Not really.
So it's basically the same graphics,
Yeah, and again, I find this one technically I find it even more impressive in this one. And because you have the skybox, you have everything going up top. You said below, like to me, it's impressive that it's at least on par. Maybe certain instances, like I've noticed, like some trees look a little less detailed or something as they're kind of blown in the wind. But like Derek said, it's not an ugly game at all. Like it's a beautiful game for like, again, the size of it, the size and scope of it is bananas. So like the fact that they could achieve that on something as small as the Switch, to me, is pretty mind-boggling.
Well, and the coding density that it must take for all the things to be manipulated, like from trees
Exactly.
to twigs to just everything, like it's not just like an open area, it's an open area that's almost fully interactable.
How is this game only 18 gigs of a download or
I
whatever?
don't know, dude. It's some kind of weird
Sorcerer.
Nintendo pact with the devil that we don't understand,
It really is.
Monolith just like waves their magic open world wand.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
we just shrink
You
everything
will
down.
run.
Yeah, Monolith
Crazy.
is insane.
All right.
So are we wrapping up this conversation? Or?
I was going to move on to the next game unless you got something else.
We're gonna spend hours on this game
right.
throughout the year.
This is our new Octopath.
Are you
Oh
guys
no, here we
seeing?
go.
Yeah,
Are you
we're
guys
ready.
seeing it?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Let's do it.
This is Dan's stream if you're
terrible.
listening.
Oh,
Oh, it
no.
is
You
Tingle.
and me and Tim.
I knew it was Tingle.
Bro, that's why you didn't have. That's why you didn't have a lot of people on there. They unsubscribed right when you did this.
No, this got him so many. This got him so many views.
No, it did absolutely
He
nothing.
he sold his soul to the devil, and he
But-
did a Nintendo pact.
But it was all in good fun. It was all in good
It
fun.
was. That looks fun.
No, that looks awesome. Yeah, awesome job.
All right, if you were just listening, you have to go to watch that on YouTube. We can't describe it for you. You have to go see it.
Can't describe
Yeah.
it. It's undescribable.
Or
It's
on Spotify.
undescribable.
We have the video version on Spotify too. All right. A couple other games that came out this week. I'm just curious if any of you had time to spend with any of these because I know I didn't. I played like the demo of one, but we'll get to it. So Darkest Dungeon 2 also dropped this past week. Highly anticipated RPG for folks, especially who played the first one. Did anyone get this game or play it at
I
all?
wanted to. It's just not playable on Steam Deck, so I was like, well, I don't want to go play on my computer right now.
It needs to be a Steam Deck game, doesn't it? It needs
It has
to
to
be.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? And that's kind of stupid, honestly, because the game has been in early access for 2 years. So this makes no sense.
No, and this has got to be a big push for Steam because it's only on Steam right now. You can't get on Switch, can't get it anywhere else. So it's like put it on your stupid system, you weirdo. Like, what's going on here?
Agreed.
What's going on,
it's-
Gabe? Come on.
It's not like Steam Deck verified, or it is. It just doesn't run well.
I'm from what I understand, it doesn't even play via a controller because there's not even a fully controller.
Oh.
Like it is all keyboard and mouse right now.
Okay,
Oh,
that
then
can
pass.
F
Big
the
pass.
heck off.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Like if
Dang.
you look at maybe it's been updated, but day one when I looked on Monday,
Hello.
its stuff it had no controller support. Because usually it
Okay.
says it has controller support. Like
But
in
the first
every
one
game
had
does, yeah.
Yeah, the
controller
icon,
support,
Yeah,
right?
because it hit
It was
every
on
console.
consoles. It was on consoles. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was, but it came out
the
later. The first one
Yeah,
came
the
out
first
later,
one
too.
came out on did the same thing. It was like PC first, and 2 years later it came out on consoles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
it'll probably do the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm a big wait on this one then. Sounds like most of you guys are
Yeah,
too.
wait. It's not in early access anymore, or is it still?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
This
it's
is the
officially
it was the
release.
version 1 or whatever you want to call it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe wait. I'm really excited for this one, but I want to play it on my terms.
Yeah,
So.
let's just
So you
wait
have
it
to
out.
be in a certain mood for it because it's a very heavy game. Like,
yeah, it
like
is. Yeah.
emotionally, like it just feels very heavy.
It's
like-
oppressive. It's an oppressive game, both
Yeah.
mechanically and vibe-wise and
I
everything.
mean,
Yeah.
it does tell you that it's the darkest dungeon.
That's
so-
true.
Yeah, it's not
Really-
it's not the dungeon full of
Mm-mm.
hugs.
It's not a
the
somewhat
the huggy
dark,
dungeon.
somewhat
The hug.
mediocrely dark dungeon. No, it's the darkest one.
Yeah.
Poorly lit dungeon. No, it's
Yeah,
just
it's not
not
poorly
really-
lit.
Romantic. The very
That's done.
romantic.
Right.
Another RPG that came out, that's another sequel, is, and I don't know how to say this correctly. Is it Fuga?
Fuga.
Melodies of Steel.
motherfucker.
It's the second game.
Uh,
The first one is one of those ones that I've always kind of side-eyed a little bit. Like, do I want to play this game? It looks kind of
the
interesting.
look
I
of
like
it,
the
yeah.
strategy elements that they've talked about, but I never really got into it. I think I actually own it on something. But anyway, never really got into the first one. This one is on Game Pass, though. Fuga
Oh,
Melodies
that's
of
right. I
Steel.
did see it there. It didn't look like my kind of game though, but
It has it has anthropomorphic characters. So Gaston, if you're listening, you can go check it out if you want.
It is on Game Pass. I think it's a strategy game.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Like RTS. Yep.
So, but none of us have played that from the looks on your faces. So I'll move on. All right, Voidtrain. There's been a demo for this in the past. I think it's been in some early access. It's officially out now.
For years, it's been in early access.
And I just downloaded the demo and played it for a little bit, not a ton. It's a first-person game. I guess for some reason in my head I thought it was third person. It's a first-person game where you are literally pulled into this kind of portal, time-traveling void, basically, and you start out on one of those little carts where you have to like actually like pump the handle in order to get it to move, and then you can pull the brake to stop and go collect resources like wood and metal scraps and organic material.
You're like
to start.
Tethered though, right?
You're tethered. Yeah, you just jump off and kind of float. It's almost like you're underwater, and you float in any direction, and you can only go so far. I assume you can upgrade your tether over time or something. Anyway, you can only go so far. Collect stuff, come back, then you craft things, and then you unlock the train. And you also have combat. I didn't get into any combat yet though in the demo. I just did the opening little basic stuff. It's an interesting concept. I think the idea is that you build out your train and you build out additional carts and have like your crafting room and I think you actually construct it. It's like a survival crafting game.
Looks interesting.
In this kind of train void space. It's a very interesting idea. So I like the demo enough that it's like on the wish list for when it's super cheap and I'm kind of in between major games, which I'm not currently. so yeah, at some point Voidtrain is going to get my attention. Just right now and that's the same with Death Retreat. I played the demo for that, loved it, talked about it last week, but that's officially out now. Again, Rogue Legacy, Halloween style. It's really fun. And the user reviews on that are super positive. Everyone's just like, this game's adorable and very fun. And I agree, it is very fun. Like the combat feels good. You have these whole swarms of zombie-looking pumpkin enemies and whatever else, and little like lab creatures that have been created that are coming after you, and you can stun lock all of them just by attacking them, and it just feels so good to take out these huge crowds of little enemies. It's a really, really fun little game. But then the last one that I know of that came out this week that I thought I'd highlight because I tried it. I think Jeff tried it too. It's Torchlight Infinite. So if you guys remember Torchlight 1 and 2, those were pretty fun little Diablo likes. I thought both of those are pretty decent. This is a free-to-play game, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad, but it certainly raises the eyebrows.
Sure.
And I uninstalled it after like 5 minutes of actual gameplay.
Wow. So you loved it.
I remember when the first 2 came out and people were like, this is better than Diablo.
Yeah.
And like ever since then, it has been nothing but like, this is the worst, like, these are the worst games ever. It's so crazy to me.
Yeah, so not only it's officially released, which is a surprise to me. Not only was getting into a game a huge hassle for me, like I don't know what happened, but now there were huge queues to get in, but the menu system was very janky, and it launched in windowed mode. And I wanted to make it go full screen. It launched in 1080p in window mode. So I was like, all right, I need to go change this to 1440 and full screen. And I couldn't access even just the settings of any kind of menu until I got into a game. So I had to kind of work my way through. And Japanese language kept popping up that I had to accept.
Yeah, I had that too. It was.
Oh wait, so is this like a 10-cent game? Is this like a 10-cent game? China's trying to infiltrate.
Maybe.
China.
You just like sold all of y'all's information to China. Good job.
My experience and the menus and getting into the game, that was like 40 minutes of time to get in. And I got into a game, started playing it, and I was like, oh, it's not even that fun. The controls are really strange, and it's not intuitive. Like you play something like Diablo or some of these other games that are just top tier. It's very intuitive, and it just feels right when you're playing it. And this is not that. So
the menus are absolute trash.
Like, oh, dude, yeah, the UI, like figuring out what's what.
Right.
It's a mess. It's a bit.
And then they like have things. They have like what do you call those menus? I guess they're like they're stagnant. Whatever. They stay on the screen. Yeah. And I'm like, why is this information? I don't need this information. Why is it?
And you can't get it to go away. There's a little button for it to go away, but it won't go away. I'm like,
right.
Well, so developer Shindong Network.
No.
Shindong.
Don't do that.
It's with an X. It's with an X. It's like
yes, but that's pronounced Shin, right?
Yeah. That X is SH. Yeah.
And
dong, so it's not Zing Dong. Okay. All right.
No, not Zing Dong. But yeah, so this was developed by a Chinese developer, so that hence all the Chinese.
They abbreviated that in Steam to say XD, and I'm like, oh, that's smart. So we're not over here butchering it or whatever.
The only part I kind of liked was like the little character. When you pick your character, their little intro animations, and I was like, okay, they're kind of interesting. A little bit League of Legends or Dota like. I was like, okay, I kind of like.
They have personality. They got their own. Obviously, they much like Diablo, their own class.
Yeah.
I lasted a little longer than you. I went 13 minutes and then I uninstalled it.
And then you uninstalled it.
You too. You guys get out of here.
Yeah. Our combined 18 minutes of playtime for this game.
Dude, I really, really wanted another like Diablo type thing to
to hold you over.
Diablo's so close, guys. Just
I know, and
tight.
in the server,
y'all don't need to play any. Y'all don't need to play any ripoffs.
As of the time of this recording, they're doing the server stress or whatever.
Right now.
Yeah, my buddy's playing it right now. He's been trying to get me to play it all week, and I'm like, dude, Zelda came out. Are you high? Like, what's wrong with you?
And he's like, yeah, very
very much so. But also, let's play Diablo.
No, yeah, I am.
I'm gonna get another character up to 25 that's not gonna carry over. Shut up, dude. Get out of here. Like,
I can't wait for that game. And I saw some opinions on the stress test, and they were saying, people that have played it were saying it's been smooth sailing. Like, it's like the launch is probably going to be,
because nobody's playing it. Everybody's playing Zelda right now.
I don't know.
I logged in and
Blizzard,
Diablo fans are pretty diehard.
Yeah, I was gonna say Blizzard fans I would say like are
we could just have it built stronger for this test,
I was joking, but I got in like 30 seconds. Like, I played last night for about 30
the beta
minutes.
You did,
Yeah, I just wanted to see. I didn't know it was the exact same stuff, and I was like, oh, it's the same thing. So the only reason why I played it for like 30 minutes is because I wanted to see what it looked like on Xbox, because I played it on PC before. This game looks really good on console, like really good.
Yeah,
they absolutely nailed native 4K. It's 60 frames per second. It looked really, really, really good.
That's really surprising.
But as soon as I saw that
it still looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good. As soon as I saw that it was the same thing, I'm like, I'm not gonna play the same thing.
Right.
When I'm gonna have to play the same thing again in
launch,
1 month, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
That's another reason
I'm gonna run out of patience for getting to level 20 in that game before the game even comes out.
Exactly.
That's a good point. Yeah. Before we get into some headlines and then talk about other quick hits, I think it's recent enough and it's been completed. So let's jump back into Star Wars Jedi Survivor to talk about updated impressions on that now that the game's been completed. We'll keep it spoiler free, not only for Dan, who's on the show with us, but also anyone who's listening or watching. I don't want you to feel like we're going to spoil anything. So we'll talk in generalities about like sections of the game, or towards the end or whatever. That moment with that one guy, remember? So I like to pull a Kyle surprise and let you all know I actually did finish this game just recently. So that's I want to do a Kyle surprise.
That is a surprise, dude.
Wow,
I did. I also finished it right before Zelda came out. I just did it.
Dude, we could all do a spoiler cast then, because there are spoilers to discuss.
I would like to talk about that game.
But I didn't want to. It was funny. I was actually about to tell you guys, like, hey, I wrapped it up, loved it, just in time for. But Derek was like, I finished it 10 minutes before Zelda came out.
He stole your thunder.
I didn't want to be the guy who was like, me too, I did too.
You should have. No.
It's kind of like
both of y'all. I could have both
like when we share like a breaking headline in our little chat, like, hey, check this out, and I maybe had just looked at that like an hour or two before. I don't want to be the guy who goes like, oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's
you just do what I do, and then you re-announce it as if you're the first person to do it.
I just found this news that was posted 23 hours ago, but for the first time, I'm going to say.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, let's talk about our updated thoughts on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I am proud of myself. I didn't turn the difficulty down despite really wanting to on a few fights. I left it at normal the whole way through, which is not that impressive compared to people who are playing it on the hard and then ultra hard.
I still think it's impressive, especially if you're beating. You were kind of on a clock in a way. I'm not saying you were forced to beat
I was
it
tempted
Zelda,
to. I was tempted to switch it over.
I definitely wanted to be done with it before Zelda, so I was like, let's just lower that bad boy down and let's just get through the story.
It down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
I had it down the whole time. That's my Hulk like surprise.
That's your secret.
That's your secret.
I was always.
I'm always on easy mode.
Yeah.
How do you beat the game in 5 minutes? Story mode.
They
let you skip. They let you skip to the end. You just.
There were a couple of one-on-one battles that definitely caused me to reset a few times, and they have multiple phases with no checkpoints, and that did get frustrating, and that included the very final battle as well, where I was like, I have to do all these steps again.
Checkpoints there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of like scenes that okay, I'm in the next phase. Okay, I'm in the next phase, and it's just like, so I finally just stuck with my one stance that I've liked the whole time. I was trying to switch it up a little bit because this character who you're fighting moves so quickly, and like the stance, I was thinking I need a quick stance to take him on, and I just needed to stick with what I was already doing well with, and only took once I did that, it took me 3 tries, but before I think I died like 8 times in a row, and I was getting real mad, and then finally switched to the stance I liked and had much more success. But there's also another fight in a it's a library-like setting that super cool moment, like story-wise, super cool moment. Loved it. But that fight was annoying the crap out of me because it was very simple. Like I had the patterns down, and there would still just be one little moment where I just misstepped, and I had to restart the whole thing over again. It was just
and that is one with like 3 parts to it as well.
Yeah, I did that one on normal all the way to the end twice. It got cheesed, and on the next time I was
totally
like,
got cheesed.
I'm dumping this one.
When the phase starts, sometimes there ought to be with something coming at you before you can even move, and then you get hit. And I'm like, well, I had no health left. I couldn't heal in time. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
it is,
that fight that y'all are talking about, I didn't like it because they would stop you to do like a mini cutscene, and then he drags you in, and then he hits you right away, and I'm like, bro, like if you wouldn't have stopped the fight, I was in a rhythm, I knew what I was doing, but you did a cutscene, and then you immediately hit me.
It's flow. So the combat system in this game is very flow centric. So yeah, when you get stopped like in the middle of the fight, like it can be a little like jarring for me as well. Where I'm just like,
discover that your kind of hyper move or power move or whatever it is, that thing you can activate once it builds up at the end.
Yep.
Like Jeff mentioned this earlier, how you kind of upgrade that to a totally upgraded version of it without spoiling anything. It made things worse for me on the final fight. I was actually taking a ton of damage during it because at least on normal mode, like he was blocking what I wanted to do and then attacking during that phase. I was like, even though I should be going super fast, and so I just stopped using it, and I had much more success without it. Which is
I didn't use it then. It was only for really for crowd control. That's what I used it for.
Great for crowd control.
Yeah,
great.
Especially because I saw a TikTok of somebody using it, and they used the force pull in, and he just threw his lightsaber, and all of them just collapsed. It was amazing.
That's so fun. That's so.
And there were like 30 bodies.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So anyway, just wanted to share that. I love it. It's so good. It's
I was so shocked by the quality of the story. And like I was a Star Wars guy, and like the last game's story was like fine. You know what I mean? Like it was good. Like there are a lot of good Star Wars nuggets and stuff like that. This is like one of the best video game stories I've played in a long time. It was really something to experience something like this.
Maybe for me since Ragnarok, but even that, like, I don't know. The finale had these plot beats that were like, we got to get to this. We got to wrap this game up, guys. This is final chapter. Let's go. And this game, they took their time. Like they had us believing one thing was happening and something else was completely different was actually happening.
I was legitimately surprised, but also kind of like delighted with what they decided to do with it.
Me too.
I was like, ooh, didn't see that coming. I really like it.
But not in a rug pull way. Well, it was a rug pull, but like not in a cheap way. You know what I mean? It just felt very earned and it's just a great story with a lot of great beats and
I was telling Kyle,
hey, a pretty decent little Star Wars relationship story, which you don't get a whole lot.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad, dude.
I am too. Yeah, I didn't. And a lot of times, not even just with Star Wars games, but like Star Wars movies, as we've seen, Episode 2, they can struggle to communicate a love story. They can just have a hard time like communicating a love story. And I think they did a great job with this one. So
I agree.
Yeah, the whole time, like I was like, this character, I'm not going to say their name or even their sex. I'm like, this character is going to betray my character, and I'm pretty good at like solving stuff, picking up hints and stuff like that. I'm not talking about obvious stuff. Like this one, I was just like, I pieced it together with this. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was like, I was wrong. Okay.
Actually,
we're going in a different direction.
We beat it like a little before you guys, but like we were able to talk about it a little bit and be like, I was pretty sure that person was going to be like the most obvious one.
Yeah, I thought something else completely was being teed up. So whatever happened, I was just like, and I'm too. I feel like I'm pretty good. I've done a lot of stories. You know what I mean? So like,
we've all storied.
I kind of know the molds of how a story's going.
Well, and the Star Wars canon outside of the movies too. Like you should, you know what I mean? Like you'll see it coming usually. But
no, I was totally blindsided and like and what I would call one of like the greatest blindsides like in video games. So.
Yeah. So I would say just as my quick opinion on this game, I said in a chat, I said, you guys, what's your hype level? I said it's a 7 out of 10 for me, which is not bad. That means I was looking forward to the game, but I wasn't like super hyped for it because of my feelings on Fallen Order, which again, that's another game I liked. Like if I had to score Fallen Order, it would be like an 8, 8.5. It had things I didn't like about it, but here's the thing. This game addressed everything that I didn't like in Fallen Order and did it better in every possible way. So it absolutely did. Like, no, it's not Dragon Age Inquisition. Let's just get that out of the way. There is no.
Hey, no one was gonna say it. That's just
in that case, I'm just.
I needed to make sure my buddy over here, who's gonna go into and be like, yeah, I can just explore.
Derek and Dan, neither of these games have ever been Dragon Age Inquisition, even a little bit.
Tim, you have bought in the game 17 times, so you haven't even played it. All right, so I don't even want.
I actually haven't. Derek has given it to me 17 times. Look at that.
So, but it's everything really that I didn't like about Fallen Order, they addressed in this game. And then I thought Fallen Order had a good story too, but this story's even better. The world is better, so I like that there is still a lot of like hop, jump, skip, and all that stuff. Yeah. Like when you're going through your levels,
platforming is amazing in this game.
It is.
But the platforming in this game is better. And the other thing that they did that made me happy, because this is my biggest gripe in Fallen Order, is once you got to your destination, Fallen Order is like, all right, now find your way back because you got to get back to the ship. And I'm like, but your map is terrible. I don't want to go. I don't want to jump, hop, skip all the way back to my ship. This game's like, all right, you made it. Okay, now you can just fast travel back.
Jedi skip ability is pretty good.
Thank you very much. So they addressed all the issues I had. The story was really good. What I was gonna share is there's been 3 games this year that have been, I think, unexpected surprises. I would put this one up there with Octopath 2. Dead Island 2, and then Jedi Survivor. I'm not saying those other games are better than Jedi Survivor and this one's better than them. I'm just saying those are 3 games that I thought would be good or decent, but not great. And all 3 of them I rated as 9s and above. So they're all 3 really, really good. This game's really good. I want to do a spoiler cast. I'm available this week. I think we should do it. It's story-driven game, so it's got a lot of interesting things you can cover in a spoiler cast, but definitely a great game. Aside from, I did have technical issues.
I'm planning on doing a new game plus as soon as.
I kept it installed too, I wanted to start a new game plus immediately, but then I was like, when am I going to do that? But I am seriously planning on doing it.
I mean, that's why I just went ahead and uninstalled it, because I was like, I'll just revisit it in like the fall or the winter or something. Because I did leave some. The only thing I left alone were like legendary like beasts or whatever they call it in the game, and bounties. I left those kind of like just hanging there.
I didn't do a ton of those.
And I was like, you know what? I'll just go back and do it, because I know if you complete all the bounties, you get some kind of secret scene. So I'm gonna go back and finish them and then circle back to a new game plus, because I do want to experience it again, especially because I know by the time I'm gonna jump back into it, it's gonna perform amazingly. It's gonna be like all patched up.
It's gonna perform really well, and also if you get to start with like all your skills, so like there's no barriers anymore. You can do everything as you approach it, instead of having to be like, well, I got to come back to this,
Well, and they add some new lightsaber colors. There's 2 that both I think look really cool from what I've seen from the little pictures of them. And then there's some other things that they add too, like some perks that you can. There's one perk, which I guess if you really like a challenge, but basically it can take a simple encounter and add a super difficult enemy there instead. And it'll kind of do that as you're playing.
Masochists out there like,
I want to touch base on this. Like, I think it's really important to say this, especially this is always like a topic when like Souls games come out. This is the reason why I don't want any Souls game to ever be like heavy story driven. Why? I don't think that's a good complaint, and here's why. The combat is very, very difficult, and when I'm playing a story-driven game,
and I want to get to the next plot beat,
Jedi Survivor has a great story. It's out there. It's not hidden. You don't have to read a bunch of articles. It's right there. It's in the forefront.
It's Naughty Dog level storytelling.
Yes, I want it uncovered. So if I was playing a Souls game that's like, dude, I need to see what's next, and they're like, yeah, but you need to fight this boss like 80 times.
Yes.
And then you can see what's next.
The
because
fights that I was referencing,
like, I don't even know why I'm fighting you anymore.
Yeah, the fight. Some of the fights I was referencing are huge story moments. I want to see what's about to happen because there's a bunch of things hanging in the balance, and I keep getting stuck on this dumb third phase, and I got to reboot the entire fight. It was frustrating. It really was, and that wasn't because I thought the game was poorly made or like I don't want to get better at it. I do, but I just wanted to get to the next narrative beat, and so. I almost turned down the difficulty.
Really funny thing happened for me, and it sounds like Kyle too. He ended his last play session, his second to last play session a little earlier than I did. But I ended it right. I was on Jeddah, and it was like, go check in with this guy because he's probably done with his thing. And I ended my play session right there. And had I continued, I would have gotten this cutscene that made me go, "What?" And I would have had to see the game through. I would have gone to bed at 4 a.m. Like, but that's exactly what happened. I got that cutscene, and I did not put the game down until I beat it because I was like driven. Like it made me determined to see the game through completely. It was just
I did something similar. When I knew I had the MacGuffin and I knew how to take it back to the guy, I was like, I'm gonna stop here tonight because I have a feeling the next thing, and I didn't have any idea what was going to happen, but like you just have a feeling, that oh, I'm reaching the end. I even think I put it in chat. I go, I think I'm reaching the point of no return, and
which is not true actually. They give you several stop points.
Yeah, no, there's no point of no return.
Something in you that's like, no, I have to see this through. This is just
It was an emotional, internal point of no return, not a physical.
It was very much so.
I do wonder. And who knows if this is always in the works. They love a good trilogy over there in Star Warsville.
They said they see it as a trilogy.
And so, if that's the case, then this was a fantastic Empire Strikes Back type of a thing with good mix of great storytelling, fun and funny moments, but also like some tragedy going on. So I thought it was really
and a really cool cliffhanger.
And I absolutely want to know what happens next.
So
I absolutely have to need to,
But they don't leave you hanging like, oh no.
It's such a
it's a nice arc that completes. Yeah, it completes.
But like a new age is beginning, and I want to see that really bad.
I want to see
how you do it right there,
Cal.
folks.
That's what I want.
Yeah, I want to see cranky old man Cal with his,
drinking some green milk.
Drinking some spatchka.
Throwing lightsabers over his shoulder and pissing off all the fanboys out there.
Just
get off my lawn.
All right, so Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I guess it's okay. I mean,
it's really
good. It is like
sounds okay.
I'm diving into Zelda now. Like I'm finally like, all right, Zelda's my game now because I finished that one. But I keep thinking about that game. I'm just like, man, that's so.
The transition
so
has been rough for me for sure. Like that
this year
ending and not rushing home and playing it every night. I've been like, I feel empty and vacant.
Dude, if
that's the thing with more story-driven games, you're like, I got the story on my brain. I
know, man. I know. I have a feeling the Final Fantasy 16 story is going to be remarkable too. I just get that feeling. I could be wrong.
Gonna hit. Yeah, it's gonna hit hard. I
know that that's actually not a given. Like some Final Fantasy games, their stories haven't been all that.
I just feel like it was really it was really pushed on 15. Like you failed in this area, you did good on all these other areas, but you failed in this area. I really think Square is gonna be like, okay, we really have to knock this.
If the Final Fantasy 14 nerds have told me anything, the writing is so good in that game, and I've only played Vanilla Returns, or the reboot of it.
I've only heard
that was really good too. So I just have no worries at all about that game.
And not to be like oh, it has rated M for mature, so it had good story. Like it's not that simple, but like the fact that they're sort of like taking the shackles off.
They had the sex.
Yeah, they make it the sex. It's a good game.
That dog better not die or I'm gonna lose it. That's all I'm gonna...
Oh, dude, if that dog I swear to God, if that dog dies, I'm burning Square to the ground. I'm burning the But yeah, no, it's just it feels very much like there's quality there, like in the voice acting. So the snippets of like the newer trailers that I've seen of like especially the voice acting and the way the characters are carrying themselves and the way they kind of like animate feels like the highest quality, like even more so than remake. Because in remake to me, I thought they did like it was like the best like English VO that they've done, and
it was excellent,
they've done, and this seems even better. Like. Noticeably even better.
And they told a really compelling version of a story I thought I kind of knew, but they told a really, really compelling.
I think the biggest evidence that the story is going to be good is the fact that they put in an accessibility mode that allows a story mode where it's just QuickTime events. They wouldn't put that in there
Yeah,
if there
like,
wasn't
if they
a
weren't
good
confident
narrative.
that the story
Oh,
would drive
good
you
point.
in. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, so between
Kinda
so Final
auto-dodges.
Fantasy 16, of course, is the next huge benchmark story-driven game, like Diablo 4 or Street Fighter. I'm not saying those aren't benchmark games; they absolutely are. But as far
Yeah.
as like a really powerful story-driven game, is that I get a feeling we're gonna get Spider-Man 2 this holiday.
Oh my
I
God.
could be wrong.
I feel pretty strong about that.
And
Me
that
too. They just released a prequel comic for free.
Yeah.
Why would they be
yeah,
doing
yeah.
marketing this early if it's
Yeah,
not
man.
coming?
I just
I
like
feel like
all
that's
the
gonna
little
hit.
nuggets you hear about when people like checking on that game. It's like we haven't heard about it from a long time, but everything is positive coming out of that studio.
Yeah.
Well, what's his
even,
face?
Even not Sucker Punch. Insomniac is like everything's on track. Every time they check in with them, everything's on track, guys.
They're on track. Yeah.
Well,
I
dude, who
think it's a
is it?
holiday
Venom?
game.
Venom voice actor, literally, like in some
Tony Todd.
interview, like
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, September. Like it's like,
Candyman.
oh, whoa.
Yeah. I
And
think
he said more than that though. He was like, "Oh, we're going to start the marketing push in August." And,
Yeah.
Which is so crazy to be like, hey,
And now
in
he's
30
dead.
days you're gonna get to play this game. But
know.
yeah, we'll see.
I know, and I'm sure there's others we don't know about. I have no idea. I don't think Starfield will be super story driven. I still hope that's an excellent game. I don't.
I'm
know,
hoping
but
for
maybe
the Skyrim sci-fi.
maybe Starfield will end up having really compelling characters and storyline and all that stuff. But I feel like it's going to be more just a fun space sandbox to
I
play.
think it's gonna be a space Zelda where it's like there's gonna be stories, there's gonna be stuff
And then
that drives
go
you,
do
but
whatever you
it's-
wanna do.
But it's really
Yeah,
just exploration.
I would call like Skyrim is all lore. You know what I mean? So, like, when you're existing in that world, like the amount of stuff thrown at you to give you a reason for why you're there or what happened there or whatever, like that's the story.
Well, Elden Ring is similar in a lot.
Yeah,
of ways
not unlike Elden Ring. Yeah, where it's more of just about like the lore or history of a place, and I guess more of the stories are in Skyrim and classic Fallout, games and stuff like that from Bethesda, not classic, but Bethesda's version of those games. It's always like the B stories or the side stories that are like the stories that people remember, not like the main quest, which is usually like find my son in Fallout 4 or kill the main dragon in Skyrim. Like that's pretty much you can quantify the stories down pretty simply, but like all the others, like side. So I'm hoping for good side stuff, but
same here.
Yeah.
I don't know that game. I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm really excited.
We'll talk about it more.
Sucks.
If you thought these other games were broken,
yeah, it'll be. But I bring up a few of those just to say, like, I don't think we're done getting incredible gaming stories this year.
No,
totally.
Yeah.
So as I'm already thinking, like, hey, Game of the Year is going to be interesting, hopefully fun, because I think it's going to be 10 absolutely home run games this year. This is going to be unique because I don't think we usually have like
a couple.
No offense to anybody, like maybe 4 to 6 that are like these could win. They're that good. Like that's a pretty good year. I think this year's there's going to be more than 10 that could win. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be crazy.
I think I've already played at least 3 games, maybe 4, that could be in Game of the Year discussion.
I've
and
said
we're
3 or
only
4
5
times
months
this year.
in.
I got like
this
5.
Is my game of the year. My game of the year has changed 3 or 4 times already.
Absolutely.
So,
But even think about these other categories. Story. So incredible.
You got stuck on
already.
Redfall, right? Like that's the last one.
Absolutely.
Read our minds.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely gonna remember that game.
I'm still struggling to figure where to place that one. Do I put it at 20th or 21st on my list? I'm not sure.
Every time you bring up this game, I'm
I've
seeing
played
red.
20 games this year is what I'm saying.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. And that's it. All right, a couple headlines here. Speaking of Nintendo, they confirmed through various sources and conversations they've had with stakeholders and whatnot that there is a slowdown in Switch hardware sales, but they've also confirmed that there's no plans on a new piece of hardware, Switch Pro, Switch 2, whatever it's going to be, Switch follow-up of some kind, Switch U, I don't know. That it's not going to happen before April 2024, or I guess before March 2024 is what they're saying. So that you can infer from that April 2024 would be the earliest we'd get the next Switch. And I'm not saying we're going to get that. I'm just saying they said it's definitely not in the next 12
I would
months.
think fall 2024 is reasonable.
I think that'd be reasonable too. Yeah, I think so. Although they did have a lot of success kind of staying away from other console launches and putting it in the spring where there was really no other hardware dropping.
Because I do think we're gonna get a new Xbox and new PlayStation in fall 2024. So you could be right. It would be dangerous for them to do that.
Xbox, sure, because they need to figure out this Series S problem, but like PlayStation, you better not.
There's There's a
Well,
PS5 Pro
right?
coming.
They'll
You know
slim
that.
it.
I know, but
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
want it, so it better not.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Or they're just gonna slim it down because that's what they always do, right? Is
I
they
think
start
that would be the
releasing.
smarter
But
move.
if I even hear that like, well, the process is a little faster though, I'll be like, I have to fucking
No, I
buy
have
that
to get
then.
it. Yeah. I can't be over here with my slow processor, my
Yeah.
processor. But yeah, their hardware sales did slow down, but they're still 125 million. I mean, it's an incredible runaway success, which is awesome. I think
Yeah,
they're
they could
compared to
never
the
sell
Wii
another
U, that
system
was
and it
like
would go down in
22
history
million.
as one of the best-selling systems of all time.
one of the I think it's like fourth or third, I think, behind PS2 and DS
absolutely
and Wii.
incredible. Yeah.
Maybe they're past the Wii. Maybe it's just PS2 and DS is above them. I think. I
think that's right. I think you're right. Yeah.
I think they're third now.
Yep.
So they're doing great. And Jeff flagged this for us that Hogwarts Legacy, the Switch version, was supposed to come out in July. It's been bumped back to November. I'll still be impressed if that game actually arrives and runs on the Switch. I really will. So
Cloud game.
And if it hits before holiday, that's a lot more.
Literally gonna be like Hangman graphics.
That is,
like,
but that is that is going to sell so many more units of a game that's already sold bonkers.
I can see them releasing that game on the Switch if they're like, but you can't fly on anything in this game.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
You can
fast travel as it is.
You're not allowed to fly anywhere.
The broom between your legs. You're just walking on the ground with the broom between your legs.
They're definitely gonna make it happen because they'll still sell a lot of copies on that.
Yeah,
they're definitely gonna make it happen.
That game needs more than $1 billion. You know, good for them.
They just put out the PS4 and Xbox One versions. I don't think it's that big of a stretch for it to hit the Switch since it's on those versions. I just think it'll be, it won't
they got
be.
The Witcher to run, man. Anything in the world can run on that system. They got The Witcher to run. That's kind of my theory.
I agree. I think if you can run it on the PS4 and Xbox One, if you can get to work there, you can, with a lot of work, make it work on the Switch. I think we've seen that.
Except if it's a PS2 game called Kingdom Hearts, and you can't.
Then you can't. Then it has to be cloud.
Absolutely impossible.
We've tried nothing.
Possible.
It's not possible. Can't do it. All right. So in case you guys are looking for more hardware to buy, the Asus ROG Ally, which is not a great name, let's be honest.
Rolls off the tongue.
It's been talked about for a little while, and then May 11th was when they did their big announcement. So this past week they did a bunch of announcements on release date, which is going to be June 13th, and pricing, which is right now $699, will get you their singular model that's releasing. They all the specs are online. You can go look those up. They're all basically look at the Steam Deck, and they're all like a half step higher than the Steam Deck. So it's all a little bit better. Battery life is reportedly not amazing, but that's to be expected with a small device with some high power specs going on there. But it is reported that there's going to be a lower spec version that's down closer to Steam Deck or below, maybe that's maybe in the $500-600 range. So I actually don't think that $700 is crazy for a little portable PC. I think that's not too bad if you want your games on the go, and it runs Windows. It's built around Windows, not around the Steam OS. So what people have reported on is that you get the system, you boot it up, it'll automatically, and once you log into your Microsoft account, it'll recognize that you're a Game Pass subscriber, and you can right away start downloading and playing Game Pass games on it.
So that's
Steam just as easy to launch on it.
And Steam
it's just
works
like
as well.
Just like your PC.
You just run those applications. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the big advantage, I think, is that it runs kind of like you would expect your Windows PC to run, and then includes things like Epic Games and Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. So
that was a big selling feature, and then I like that it's a 1080p screen at 120 hertz. That's another.
Yeah, they did
feature.
the frames per second test on whatever link it was you shared, Derek, and it was like way more impressive than the Steam Deck. And I was like, how the hell did they do this? It's so wild. Battery life was like the main thing that they griped about, but it's like
they can't
we complain about that with the Steam Deck too. I mean, that
is a technological breakthrough that I am so pumped to be here for whenever that lands. When someone figures out the battery life thing for all portable devices,
I think they have it figured out. They can't budget it. Like, whoever's selling batteries is you want to.
I mean, figure it out in terms of technology, because I still think it's not totally figured out, but technology, but also in compatibility and accessibility and availability, like all those pieces.
Something beyond lithium or whatever.
But like,
right?
I don't want like 8 hours. I want a battery that lasts like 800 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's like that would be a breakthrough.
How are we not there?
Like I never have plugged my Steam Deck in ever.
They just need to figure out how to shrink the sun and put it inside something, right?
Dude, listen,
I think
if Metal
Tony
Gear
Stark
Solid 4
has
could
already
use
developed.
nanomachines for everything. I feel like we could throw nanomachines
That's
at this
actually a
problem.
great idea, Dan. We should have it
Nanomachines.
where on the back of the handheld consoles they have
Right.
like the little sun,
Little solar panels like Wally.
solar
Yeah, I
panels.
have little solar
So when I'm
And it's
panels.
just like
inside
as you're
playing
playing
all day, they can catch all
outside,
those
it's
rays.
sucking
So
in
you're
the sun
having to
energy.
hold it up like this at the
love
sky.
gaming.
You're having to hold it up at the sky.
I keep looking at the sun. This is not fun. So yeah,
That's-
I do think
that's
it's
the
a
second idea.
cool device. I'm glad to see other companies in this game because that just means it's going to push the major players like Valve to keep upping their game and that kind of thing. So
By
don't
the
get me
way,
wrong.
if you use your Best Buy credit card,
Yeah.
you can get, first of all, 12 months interest free, but they also have monthly coupons that are 10% off, so you can actually get it for $630.
Oh, nice. That's
Do you
a
work
good
at
deal.
Best Buy or something?
I'm a deal.
He knows
I'm a
all the
deal
deals.
man.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
do
deal
I
man.
do hate this like that where like this new thing is happening because now there's gonna be like a new one of these every year and I'm the asshole that bought a Steam Deck and it's gonna be the worst, of these. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
I'm with
I know
Kyle.
that
Like
and
I
everyone's
don't
gonna
like
know
when
that and like it's hard to it's gonna be hard for me to want to spend another $600 or
Yeah.
$700 on another
I don't
handheld
want
system,
new
even
stuff
within the next
coming
3 or 4
out
years.
all the time. Just
Right,
like,
yeah, no,
like
yeah.
I get
Yeah.
his like, don't release another PS5. Like I see the need for, I shouldn't say a need. I see the desire for another PS5 or an Xbox because you see gamers complaining like, why aren't you running native 4K 60 frames per second on every game? I know the next system they'll be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're getting so saturated, and in the handheld market, it's going to even be worse because
Yeah.
in
Well,
console
it's a
gaming, you
boom
have
right now.
like 3 major consoles. Anybody else who tries to enter that realm gets immediately booted, like you suck, get out, right? But in the handheld, like in the PC world, everybody has a place. Like you're gonna have a ton of like handhelds.
Yeah.
All this stuff's gonna be constantly releasing with new.
It's a renaissance, man.
better-
It's the '90s again. Like whenever
Yeah.
like handheld was getting off the ground in a big way, and everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Like
Yep.
we're reliving that again. It's just like the tech is better and everyone has more money.
Well, and this is Asus, right? So that's a company that most of us are familiar with. We've heard of Asus.
Yep.
There's another one called, I think it's Aya Neo. I'm not
Yep.
sure if there's a umbrella company over them.
They're
But
more expensive.
I looked at their store and their devices look amazing, and you can get all these different. You can buy a bunch of different specs. They just released an Air version of their I think it's Aya Neo is how you say it. Anyway, they have an
Yeah.
Air version that's also down in the 600-700 range that they just put out. That's looks really slick. Looks really cool. So like, yes, there's too many of them out there, but there's also I like having more.
It is
options. And hopefully it'll push
Well, you
Valve.
definitely don't
Well,
want
and
Valve
you just have to recognize
run
that
the
it's-
market.
You don't
It's
want
right
Valve to.
now like it's not a stabilized market yet, and everyone's trying to find,
Yes.
everyone's trying to capital and like I have no problem with that because you know what, in like 4 or 5 years we're gonna have like some really really powerful, interesting, stable, mainstays in the handheld market.
Yep.
I'll say this.
And like
I love my Steam Deck though, man. Like I've never
too.
I have
It's
not
the
been
coolest
If
thing
unhappy
ever.
with it.
Asus
Yeah.
would have made, because I was following this device because I really like Asus. If they would have announced this and said it's $1,000, because there's a lot of people that were rumoring this is going to be $1,000. The specs all screamed $1,000, right? And then there's rumors coming out they're going to launch it at 700, and people are like, "There's no way with these specs they're going to do it." If they would have launched this at $1,000, I completely ignore it. So them dropping this price is the reason why I think it's getting a lot of reviews. It's why people are now talking about it. Because
Yeah,
I
there's
think if it
interest.
launches
Yeah.
at 1,000, people are like, nope, I'll just stick to my Steam Deck. But now that people are like, this is more powerful than the Steam Deck, and it's only $50 more than the high-end Steam Deck, but it's literally better than that one.
Yep.
I think that's going to force Steam, Valve's hand, because they're going to keep launching their stuff. They're going to keep making more tech. I think that's going to force them, to drive them to be cheaper, which is good. Because if they own the market, they will eventually get comfortable, and they'll be like, $1,500 for a new 4K 60 frames per second handheld device, and we don't want that. We
I
want
think
a
they'll
market
express
that's
more games being verified just to make sure that
Yeah.
they seem more viable. Like, look how many viable verified games we have on Steam Deck. We may not have the most powerful system right now, but we might have the most
The
stable way to play
library
video
is
games.
important. Yeah,
The
Look,
library.
guys, ours are verified, and we're the only ones that can do ray tracing at 2 frames per second. Come on, buy a Steam
So I
Deck.
do like the Steam Deck's the way Steam OS works and the way you can look through your library and start to me it's very intuitive and
It's
I
neat,
like it.
Yeah.
It's very neatly kept and organized. And if you run Steam on one of these other devices, I did read into it a little bit, not a ton. It's a little clunkier because it's running an app within whatever their interface is, so it's not going to be quite as slick or smooth. So if that means anything to you, the menus and the way that works, Steam Deck is built for Steam. That's what it's made for.
It does for me because I don't want I'm not a big computer guy. Like I get frustrated when Skype doesn't have or doesn't launch properly. So it's like I like the streamlined nature of a Steam Deck where it's just like I turn it on, it's just Steam. I know you can jailbreak that thing to play Wii games or whatever. Not really my thing. I like that it's just for my library.
Well, you could have been playing Tears of the Kingdom for the last 2 months if you would have done
in
that,
60 frames per second, Tim.
Of course you could have. Of course you could.
Frames per second.
All right. On that note, Hollow Knight Silk Song has been delayed out of the first half of 2023, which is funny because it's like first half of 2023 is almost over. But all right. So
coming out.
But according to the
developer,
they're saying that the game just got quite big, like their ambition,
Sure
which I
did.
thought this was originally DLC that turned into
It was
sequel.
DLC, yes.
And now it's
And
just a full-on sequel.
So its
and they're
whole
saying
story
it's
is that it's just gotten bigger and bigger and
gotten
bigger.
bigger.
So when that posted
Just
it,
so
and
good, guys.
and I saw you guys like commenting and whoever, I think it was Gaston maybe. So I went to go look at the developer, like, cause I don't know who the developer is. The only other game they've made is the first game, the first Hollow Knight.
Team Cherry, right?
And it's three people.
Oh,
So
Wow.
it's 3 people,
Asi-
everybody.
aside from like them maybe asking some what's the word? No, like outside people for like maybe music or something.
Outsourcing.
Yeah, outsourcing maybe
Outsourcing.
little random or things like that. Like it's 3 dudes. So yeah, it makes sense that a game that's hand drawn this size, maybe it's even bigger because Hollow Knight, the first one, is huge. That is a massive game.
It is.
I don't know if you guys finished it.
I
but it's
didn't. The
massive.
backtracking made me quit after. a
Okay.
while.
Yeah, it's a crazy massive game. So if this is on par, if not bigger size wise, like the map, it makes sense to me that it is taking this on. Combined again with the fact that also the team is small and it's all hand drawn. Like so, it makes sense. It's frustrating.
I feel like the fan base had a lot of legs too because like it came out to a lot of fandom. It got more fans as it released on more things. I think it became free on a couple of subscription services. So it's like it just over the course of a year, like it just kept on injecting itself with more fans, and I feel like maybe that also has something to do with being like, well, we can't screw this up, guys. We gotta.
Yeah, they want to make sure it doesn't.
You got a lot of people who really like that first game.
It's another example of being a victim of your own hype, where you announce this game way too early, and now people are waiting for it. So.
Well, it might.
So I'm with you. Like I have total empathy, and I would give a lot of grace to a small team like that. Super impressive. But also, like, don't announce it like it's coming out this fall. What was it, 2020? We heard about it. So it's a little much.
I'm trying to, because I didn't check. Was Hollow Knight kickstarted?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I feel like
that's for sure.
I feel like I remember
This was
it.
not, yeah.
If it was, and maybe that's how it connects to it being, it was supposed to just be DLC. Because if it was a Kickstarter and then it was like a milestone that they hit and they were gonna do it as DLC, but then then they kind of got ambitious with it and it blew up and then turned into a bigger game. So I mean, not that it is excusing it, but I'm saying like how you're saying they shouldn't have announced it. I'm a part of my brain is telling me that I think it was a Kickstarter and then that was like a milestone that they hit. And that sort of all kind of wraps into like, well, of course they had to announce it because they said, well, we'll do DLC for it. You know what I mean? Like, I would have to check that, but
and that became a sequel.
Yeah. And then it literally became, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't think they have a new release window. It's just not happening in the first half of 2023. So we'll see what happens there. Speaking of development teams, Game Freak is given the opportunity to work on a brand new IP being published by Private Division, which is an interesting combo between those two teams. Of course, Game Freak, if you're not familiar, they're the ones they've done other games, but they're most well known for their Pokemon games that they've created.
Right.
But they've done some smaller stuff, like if you played Tembo the Badass Elephant or Little Town Hero, like they made some smaller stuff as well. But yeah, mostly known for their Pokemon work. And all they did was release their first concept art. It looked like some sort of samurai standing in a big redwood-looking forest with these giant trees. It was just concept art, though. So
nice art.
It was very nice.
Hollow Knight was Kickstarted, by the way, just so you know.
There you go. Well, you're probably right on the order of events there. Then that does make more sense.
Yeah, it was probably a milestone. They said we'll make DLC, and then they were kind of like, well, actually, hold on, guys, we'll make a whole
like
game.
A sequel.
So yeah. So
Mortal Kombat 1 appears to be getting some details leaked. Even the name Mortal Kombat 1 is not official yet, is it?
No, people.
Really.
It's like rumors that are bouncing around because they keep.
So we're calling it that, but it's not officially called.
It's either 12 or apparently 1. What is?
No,
like
it's not 12. It's a reboot. It's Mortal Kombat.
Well,
So Ed Boon
we just
released
rebooted it.
Yeah.
No.
So if you
Soft
played the
reboot, yeah.
story, like he's basically doing like the Marvel, like we jump into different timelines, but like this one he released like a teaser where it like starts shaking at after it gets to 11, like it's about ready to go to 12. It starts shaking the clock, and then it switches to 1. So he's clearly saying we're skipping 12,
okay,
and we're going to 1. We're rebooting.
Okay.
I'm fine with that because the stories of these games can be pretty cool. And I feel like these reboots were really cool in the story mode, but they were really bogged down by like the time traveling aspect of everything.
I need them to stop doing
So
that.
it's like, yeah, like to go back to the basics and it just be about like supernatural people fighting each other for like the better, for humanity or whatever. Like it could be pretty cool
For the realm, Kyle. How dare
For the
you.
realm, everybody. There's 7 of them or something. I don't know.
Well, there was even DLC, right, to continue that story a little bit. Wasn't there like a really short little expansion?
There was.
Yes. It was really good too. This is my favorite fighter. This is my favorite franchise of all time. Like I'm a legit fanboy of Mortal Kombat. So anytime we're getting new Mortal Kombat, my hype goes crazy. So him saying this is a reboot makes me so happy. Not that the other games weren't good. 9, 10, 11. They're all great.
I think they're all awesome, yeah.
But this is, or I'm sorry, not 12. 11 were great. This is exciting to me because the story was getting to a place where it was like, I'm jumping from this time zone to this, and I'm doing this.
Grown ass kids,
Well, you had old Johnny Cage and like new Johnny Cage, and old Johnny Cage is like, dude, young me fucking sucks. Like, what is the deal?
That fourth wall breaking humor is pretty funny, but
it was really.
Well, they've in the past Mortal Kombat games.
Reboot it for sure.
Mortal Kombat games have added some really fun and interesting DLC characters. This time, there's a rumor that Homelander from The Boys and Peacemaker from the DC universe might be added as DLC potentially.
That would be cool.
Both of them would be great fits. And
very good fits and totally believable for sure.
Yeah, Homelander definitely fits for sure.
All right.
Imagine the rumor currently is it's coming out in September. Imagine that game coming out the same month as the rumored month for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's suddenly the fall is getting like really scary.
Yes!
I mean,
like,
they
that's
always
not even the fall yet.
their...
That's just September. Like, what's going on in October and November?
I know.
See, I think this would be an October game. If I remember correctly, most Mortal Kombats come out in like October.
I think
like
so.
Getting close to Halloween is when they launch. And
for all the cosplayers and stuff.
Yeah, man.
I believe that
holiday season's going to get jam packed. I feel like that might be one for there. Well, June is going to see 2 horror games, if that's your thing. One is Layers of Fear, which has a demo out next week.
I love this series.
The full game will release in June. And then Amnesia: The Bunker was supposed to come out, I think, this coming week, but they bumped it back into June as well. So a couple of horror games hitting in
Layers of Fear. June. It sounds like this new one is gonna harken back to the first one because you're playing a painter again, but it's like a different artist. Where the second one kind of got lost a little bit, and that's why fans of the first one didn't really care for it as much. Even though it's very impressive, yada yada. But yeah, it's just like a first person kind of like exploration. There's some puzzles, but it's mostly like a jump scare type of game. It's not like I'm gonna sit here and recommend it to everybody here just because you like Resident Evil or whatever, because it's not the same. It's not trying to be that. But I do like the weird vibes of it. It's a good time.
Cool.
Nice. Lords of the Fallen. This is a rumor. Okay, nothing officially announced, but there's a data miner. He's called whatever. This data miner is called a reliable leaker. I'm not even going to try to read their name. But apparently they've gotten things right a lot with release dates that they've found in data mining efforts. So anyway, they're saying that looks like Lords of the Fallen is targeting October 13th for its release date. Speaking of holiday, getting busy.
Hey, it's got Fallen in the title, so
Yeah.
it's going to be game of the year for Derek.
Derek's gonna love it.
Derek, let us know how it is.
Yeah, I'll be there.
The trailer for this did look really cool. Like it looked awesome, but I have no idea if it's gonna be. Should I expect a AA quality game?
I'm
Probably.
because this is a sequel, right? To something else. It's like
it's Lord of the Fallen, and now it's Lords of the Fallen.
Multiple Lords.
And I'm not being ignorant. Like, do people like the first game? Like, is this a warranted sequel? Like,
it was a swimming in sevens, I think.
Okay.
And this is Focus Entertainment, right? Or no?
I mean, the Surge got a sequel, so I don't know what I'm saying.
According to
I think it's Paradox.
Hexworks. I don't know who that is.
Is it Paradox who's publishing? I think it's Paradox.
I played
CI Games
couple hours of it.
It's a Dark Souls like, right? Kind of.
CI Games published Tales of Iron.
So yeah, from what I remember, it had vibes of that. It felt heavy. Like your main character, from what I remember, felt like just like heavier.
Yeah, this is supposed to be like a dark fantasy action RPG.
Those are all Demon Souls words.
I don't see anything about open world, but I mean it could be. But yeah, I mean the screenshots look great.
The other one wasn't. It was definitely It was pretty
linear.
Now I'm remembering that people did kind of like this game, like the first one.
I thought I recall it being mentioned. I
think people liked it. I don't know if people loved it. But
I like the aesthetic.
I guess I didn't even know this was getting a sequel, and I'm like, what? And it's coming out soon.
And they announced it. Was this a Games Awards trailer? I forget. It was announced in recent months.
It might have been one of those that we're like, oh, okay, and then it goes on to the next game.
I think that sounds familiar.
I can't keep everything up there. It's busy up there.
I was looking for it on Metacritic to see, but was it called Lords of the Fallen then too? Is it Lords there too?
I guess it was. I think it was just Lord of the Fallen. No,
it was Lords. It was Lords.
I thought I saw one
called
Steam
the same
that's
thing.
Like also Lords of the Fallen, and I was like, what the hell is that?
Wait,
it's called the same thing.
It's the same title, and it was made in 2014.
Yeah, it just says Lords of the Fallen 2014.
I don't have enough.
It was a Swimming in Sevens game. It got 70s.
It must have been a darling to a lot of people, like the Surge. Because the Surge was like a 7 out of 10.
Lords of the Fallen was okay. Like some people liked it, but most people didn't like it, and I at first thought it was okay, but when I went back and tried to play it after beating like Souls games, it's really sluggish.
Yeah.
Really floaty. Yeah. They would have to. I don't know. I don't think it's
overhaul
some
of that stuff.
It does. The guy on the cover of the old one does look very Viking-like. That's right up Kyle's alley.
Yeah. I don't get why it's just called the same. That's
same thing.
It's just. Unless I'm missing.
This is weird, like Goat Simulator 3, but like in not the fun, cool way.
Right. Yeah. By just skipping a number, it's like, oh, that's.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to act like the
awkward.
first one never came out. Like they're like, well, it didn't do very good. It sucked. But hey, we're doing it again.
We're taking a whole other swing at the.
Okay. So they announced the same year that this one came out. They announced that Lords of the Fallen 2 was in development and set to release in 2017. Obviously, that didn't happen, and then it eventually just became Lords of the Fallen, and it was announced this past year.
We just talked about Layers of Fear. They were originally going to call it Layers of Fears, and then they just dropped the S, and now it's the same title as the first game.
Oh, so it's the same title. Wow, because we have 2 games coming out. All right, we're not even trying anymore.
It's funny. Kyle, you mentioned the Surge, like the original developer of Lords of the Fallen. They moved on from the sequel to develop the Surge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and that's why it's considered a spiritual successor to it in a lot of its gameplay. I didn't know that.
I guess I didn't either. Yeah.
But you do the connection, brother. You did it.
Yeah.
Kyle's a genius.
You're welcome.
Well,
you're welcome.
All right, so let's jump over to some of our quick hits to wrap things up. We'll kick things off with Jeff. Anything it's up to you. Anything you're watching, playing, and we won't put a timer up, but we'll fly through these. So let's hear it, buddy.
I'm Hulk Hogan.
What are you doing there, brother?
I definitely recommend this show called Digman. It's a spoof on like all the Nicolas Cage National Treasure things, and also it's parodying like Indiana Jones and stuff too. Yeah, but it's Andy Samberg. He co-created it, and it's him doing Nick Cage's voice in the show. It's so freaking funny. I highly recommend.
What is that on?
Comedy Central, but I watched it the way I normally watch things. Just let that sit there.
Sailing the Seas.
I watched. I also caught up on season 2 of. Well, I'm almost caught up. almost caught up on that. Season 2 of The Great on Hulu, which is like with Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Holt's such a great dick. He's like, I mean, you already saw shades of it in the menu, but he's just so entertaining in the show, and the humor is all in how bluntly rude everybody is to each other. It's really funny. It lives up to its title, basically. And I also recommend the Michael J. Fox movie that just dropped on Apple called Still. It really is a good portrait. Like I don't know anything about Parkinson's. I don't know anybody with it. I don't know how it starts, whatever. So he like really tells a story with how it began for him, and they do reenactments that help me like visualize what it's like and how he walks now. Because he's 62 now, he can't even walk anymore. Like he's just like his body's just throwing him in different directions when he walks. It's such a terrifying disease, but this guy refuses to let it impact his sense of humor. You got to admire it. Like he's just always making jokes about shaking and stuff like that. So yeah, that one's great. Don't watch the Charlie Day Fool's Paradise movie. It's not good. Just skip it. It's a real shame because that cast was just kind of sick.
Right, go see Mario Brothers if you want to hear Charlie.
Seriously, if you want to see at least a passable version of a Charlie Day movie, in my opinion, just go see Mario movie. And they even like Adrian Brody was not phoning it in. Kate Beckinsale was not phoning it in. They were trying to deliver really hard on the material, and and Charlie Day was trying to do like the Tramp thing, like from Charlie Chaplin, but it was like one joke that got kind of wore out its welcome 20 minutes in, and you're like, oh, that's the whole movie. Oh, okay, all right. Anyway, one of my favorite movies of the year is Blackberry. It's starring Glenn Howerton. Speaking of Always Sunny, he did the old man bald haircut for this. For real in real life, like you can even see it on Always Sunny podcast when he was filming the movie. He was wearing a hat most of the time, but they made him show that he has like this big bald, round bald head and like the hair on the sides to look like the guy. But he plays the guy who basically just came across Jay Baruchel's character, who created BlackBerry, and they tried to do a pitch to him, and he at first didn't really listen to him and shot it down. But then something happened at his job. And he was like, okay, I'm just going to go claim I'm CEO now at this one company after some, minor negotiating. But he's so funny, dude. Like this movie is so ridiculously funny just because of how freaking rude everybody is as well. Like it's much like The Great, where there's a scene where like Michael Ironstein eventually shows up in the movie. He's got a mean face. And so he's always playing a dick in movies. But there's a part where like all the engineers are partying, and he's like trying to get them to whip them into shape to make a more sustainable version of a BlackBerry phone. And he's like, you're all just little boys with your penises in your hands. And it zooms in on a woman sitting there at the table like, it's like oh boy. Joke. They have tons of jokes like that. But I didn't know anything about the BlackBerry phone. I never owned one. So it wasn't like a story I was familiar with, like where I was like, oh,
I had one for a little bit. Felt pretty good for a minute.
Interesting. Yeah.
Clicking on those buttons.
There's a line in the movie where the iPhone does play a role because that played a part in the demise of the phone. The iPhone does play a role in the story. So there's a moment where the marketing guy's arguing with Glenn Howerton's character, and he's like, we're just going to become the phone that everybody owned before the iPhone. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what happened.
Yep, exactly what it is.
So interesting. So I can't recommend it enough. I just love the pacing of the movie. It felt like Aaron Sorkin type movie, but minus the overly sentimental stuff that he sometimes does, which I still
when movies like this hit the theater, I'm not interested in seeing on a big screen, but this is one that I would be interested in watching on streaming for sure. Like
it's perfect for that. Like I don't know where it's going to stream. It's a very Canadian movie because it's about a Canadian company. Jay Baruchel goes full Canadian in this. What's it all about and stuff like that. Yeah, wherever it ends up, I will definitely send you guys that direction because it's so worth checking out. I was so riveted and glued to the screen in this movie. It's so good.
All right, Derek, what about you? Anything outside of what we've already talked about that you're playing or watching you want to shout out?
Just that a continuation from last week. I completed 3 games before Zelda came out. We already talked about Jedi Survivor, so I won't go over that one.
I was thinking 3 on top of that. I was like, holy crap, dude.
No, I finished...
well, that's a lot of games, brother.
Redfall.
Yes.
And
you finished that.
Yeah, I finished it like a couple days after we recorded.
Can't say the same about the developers. Am I right, guys?
No, I finished their game, but they didn't.
Hey-o.
Hey,
so that's the kind of jokes you're getting here.
It's essentially what I said in last week's. I was very fair. I ripped it to shreds. I still said that I enjoyed it. Overall, I still enjoyed it, but it's still, to me, objectively a bad game. Nothing changed from last week's conversation to, oh, I beat it and the story was so good and the gameplay picked up. No.
There's no Jedi Survivor moment in the story where you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like the good guys all along.
Weird. There's some interesting stories going on, but again, not only we touched on it last week that the cutscenes are dumb because it's just a picture and people talking. But there's a lot of like, it's that typical Arcane thing where you go into like these weird like areas that are supernatural, and then you're like watching like them play back the past like conversations, and everybody's kind of, it's replayed that they're all like liquid form, so they're all like clear like water liquid form, and they're like talking, and there's interesting stories there, but again, because of the way it's presented, the whole presentation as a whole, it's not done very well. So it's like, okay, I beat it, cool. I am looking forward to, I did not uninstall it. I'm looking forward to them patching it, seeing what they do. I bought the expensive version, so I get like any DLC that they release or anything like that. So I will play it down the road and update my opinion if it does get better, but as of now, it's not great. The other one I finished was Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. That took me over 20 hours. Whereas other people were saying it was like a 15-hour DLC. I absolutely loved it. Like, honestly, it's some of the best DLC you'll ever get. It really concludes the story while tying all three of the main games together, not just because they put the characters in it.
There's a word for that.
What's that? Go ahead. I want to hear it.
Culmination.
You've never used that word.
Culmination.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But overall, it's really good, and it was cool to see. I went back on Metacritic and I saw finally some people were reviewing, not a big number, like 5 or 6 outlets reviewed it, and they were all giving it over 9.
It's like a 92 or something, I think.
Yes, and it's really that good. So the combat's better. The story, I won't say the story's better because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has an amazing story. It's just the way they tie everything together. Everybody's related in some way, and it's really well done. Oh yeah, it's
like connected.
a lot of Adam and Eve's up in here.
And very Alabama up in here.
So like basically Monolith is just amazing, and like Nintendo needs to like scoop them up or something like before.
Yeah, I don't know why they have not purchased or made
maybe
they
have
a deal with Monolith.
Primarily,
they're like, we're not going to pay the money for you guys to release your games exclusively, but you're going to make all your games exclusive, right? Am I right? It's like, yeah,
because then they can say that they own. I mean, like, because Xenoblade is their Final Fantasy, that whole like franchise. So it's like, like,
true.
why would
you
you
hear
not
that,
scoop
Dan?
that up?
Xenoblade is
I'm just saying it's their in-house RPG.
I'm just saying it's that high quality that you really should be playing it instead
I never said it's not high quality.
Instead of playing Xenogears.
So instead of acquiring Monolith, Nintendo just continues to send their staff just like pictures of their houses without any context. Just like this is where you live, right? And they just kind of nod, like, okay.
At least I'm appreciating their
You're gonna keep making the games for us, and you're gonna help us with Zelda because we can't do Zelda right. We need you, so.
We obviously can get the Pokemon guys in here to do our open world games, so we gotta get them on.
Well, that's it. I don't think I've watched anything new. I haven't been watching shows. I've just been gaming all week, so which makes sense. I finished 3 games.
Dan, what about you? Anything else that you're
playing? Then just finishing Breath of the Wild, and then I'm still just plugging away at Xenogears. I did start, and I wanted to actually ask Kyle if I keep forgetting if you do or don't watch My Hero Academia.
I do, but I'm not caught up on the newest season.
Oh my God, Kyle!
I know.
God! Oh my God!
That's all I've heard.
And like, what's
bad,
and like,
huh?
but yeah, absolutely. Well, what's funny is like, because again, this is what drives me crazy about just the internet and social media, and it's like, no, I definitely am seeing moments in the animation that like people were like really just fuming about certain shots in the anime just not being up to par of what they wanted to be, because apparently this particular season is an arc of the manga that is like, I guess, like a lot of people's like favorite arc. So like I guess expectations were like really high, and just it didn't hit for people because the animations during fight scenes were just not what they should have been. It's like, I get that sucks, but holy crap, the things that are actually happening, and like it's like it just hits the ground running, because they set it up in season 5.
Always just really quick, like it gets into their stuff quick, most seasons.
Yeah, but like in this, it's like it's more just like it's being serious out the gate, whereas the previous seasons they kind of like start off quick, but it's usually like the students doing like a test of some sort, right? They put like, oh, like this team versus this team, and they do like a test thing in the beginning, and then like the serious stuff kind of happens in the second half. In this one, it hits the ground freaking running, and like there's just all out mayhem ensuing, and I mean, there's definitely other animes that do it better as far as like, like not pulling their punches and like actually being like, oh, well, this character is dead and this thing happened and that happened. Like, but like within this world, because I really like My Hero Academia, and the fact that they're not pulling punches in this season, I'm like, damn, dude, like the story here is just really excellent for me, anyways, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of really interesting things happening, and it's just like bonkers to me.
It's funny that you said that a lot of people aren't happy, because I've heard nothing but good stuff. I'm not as dialed into anime and people's takes on it, but like even like streamers like Bruce and Lawrence and stuff like that from Funhouse, I'll catch like their stuff on YouTube. Like in passing, they'll be talking to Raul and they'll be like, "You watching My Hero right now? It's the best thing ever," and the three of them will like talk about it for a second and then move back onto the game. So it's in the zeitgeist of nerdom right now for sure.
And that's the thing.
How good it's been.
Yeah, I think it was mainly what I was noticing was just people complaining about the quality of some of the
Dragon Ball Super got the same thing. Like a lot of the real bad animation, which it had,
Yeah, it very much had. By the time you get to the Tournament of Power, though, that's a bit different. But like there's still some beautiful shots and great things happening. I think it's just people being, as usual, very nitpicky about everything and just completely disregarding the fact that like there's really excellent story stuff happening there. Like for me, like it's absolutely for me like the tops of like so far out of all 6 seasons. So
I mean, I don't doubt you that it's very good, but the trend continues that titles for anime shows are so off-putting to me. I don't know why. Like My Hero Academia.
Well, like, yeah, because they're students. They're basically going to school and they're learning to be heroes. So they're actually taking like a hero course, and then it's academia. Like they're learning. They're in an academy.
No
so
one
to speak.
says academia.
Everyone says academia. How dare you? I don't know if it's a Japanese thing. Maybe it's like when you train. I don't know. I don't know.
It's by far like the least concerning thing. Like if it's a great show, it's a great show. I'm just messing
I know what you mean though. When sometimes you hear a title for something, and you're like, that just attacks my ears all wrong, and I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Yeah, like that.
No,
like specifically that one.
That's bizarre to me. Like that's bizarre.
Well, it's like there was that.
That sounds weird.
There was an RPG series, like the Dot Hack series, and I'm sure it's good games, but like those titles are
so good.
So off-putting. The titles are so off-putting.
Tim, if you think these are, I mean, there's some anime titles out there like
sign dot hack infection dot hack.
Dude,
like this some absurd. Even
no,
more
I know.
absurd.
I know. My Hero Academia is actually one of the more normal names out there for
Demon
a show.
Slayer is probably the most normal, I would say.
Demon Slayer is good, yeah. And Attack on Titan is like, I get it. They're attacking.
Yeah, you're attacking. You're attacking.
Sometimes
Kyle, what about you? Anything on your playlist or watch list this week?
Brought a surprise because it's a new week. I watched Dungeons and Dragons.
Uh-huh.
I liked it. It was pretty good.
Okay.
It was pretty good.
Pretty good.
I actually really liked it.
It's like De Niroing over there.
Oh no, I can't do it, De Niro. But,
I know, but the way you're saying it was like,
nobody can do a De Niro. He got somebody pregnant at 80. Who can do that? I mean,
jeez.
So true. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought I was gonna hate this movie. I'm telling you guys, like even you guys after y'all saw it, you're like, it was good. I was like, they're all lying and colluding on this lie. They have a side chat going on, we're tricking Kyle into watching D&D.
Right.
That's
right,
how
absolutely.
deep I thought. That was deep state stuff y'all were doing, And I watched it today, super casual watch. Woke up, this morning, sat down, gave it a little go or whatever. Was actually laughing a lot. Like I thought all the jokes were very funny. I got all the humor really landed for me, to be honest. Hugh Grant complaining about tea for 10 minutes was super hysterical to me.
It was so every single time. It's actually, I'm sorry, it's quite hot, and then she literally freezes
hot. I didn't realize you're gonna put your whole finger in it. I'm just gonna put this here. The whole gag was super funny. There's lots of good gags too, and Chris Pine's super easy to like. He does really well in this movie too.
I think my favorite, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but my favorite gag was you can only ask 3 questions when you awaken the dead.
Oh yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
Did that count as a question?
Thing.
Yeah.
That's actually one where I wish I get you're trying to get people to go to the theater, but I really wish they wouldn't have shown that in the trailer, because I was like, oh, this would have been great to watch it in the movie.
That was not funny to me in the trailer at all. It was totally funny to me in the context of the movie, because they do the joke 3 or 4 more times, it's just super funny. And I again, I don't know a lot about D&D. I played some campaigns, but they were usually crafted by dungeon masters in their own worlds, using creatures from the compendium, but not really based in Icewind Dale or Neverwinter or anything like that. But I have played a lot of D&D games, so all the terminology of those 2 towns I just said, and Baldur's Gate gets a name drop, they all that stuff is in this. So I was just oh, if I'm catching this surface level stuff, I bet a lot of hardcore D&D nerds every scene are probably catching thousands of references, and I'm just maybe just elude me. So I don't know. I thought it was a pretty well done movie, and you could tell everyone people behind the scenes were big fans and stuff like that. So. Yeah. Hey, stop using 70s and 80s rock music in your trailers, because I will not take take your movie seriously.
Yeah, I think I told you when they didn't play it, you were like, why did they attach it to every trailer?
No. I would and I already forgot that you told me that too, because the whole movie I'm just waiting for them to play A Whole Lot of Love, and I love Led Zeppelin, dude. I love Led Zeppelin. I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I do not want that type of music in my fantasy and stuff like that.
But everyone's trying to capture that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. They're all trying to capture it.
But that's
but they don't even use a single pop song in the movie. That's what's so frustrating.
Pop songs.
You know what movie it actually kind of worked for though? Was A Knight's Tale. It kind of worked for that movie.
No, they were deliberately being anachronistic in that movie.
Yeah. So it totally works in that.
Yeah. That's why I get frustrated when they just slap some dumb rap song in every video game trailer where there's pew pews happening and explosions. It's or just use the music in the freaking game, because
it's weak mom spaghetti.
It's all about mom spaghetti.
It's always about mom spaghetti. Always.
Anyways, I really like that movie. It was a good time. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I also saw Evil Dead and The Covenant. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. Both fantastic movies. Both absolutely.
Man, you really were going to theaters a lot this week.
No.
Yeah, he totally went to the theater for those.
I totally got copies of these and went to the theater and watched them.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, very good.
You guys like the Evil Dead one, right?
Highly recommend those 2 movies too. If you like Evil Dead anything, that's good. If you like military movies, The Covenant's really good. And
it's missing. To watch The Covenant. I'm really excited.
You're
gonna love that one, dude.
It doesn't have that overt rah. This is we're support the troops.
Yeah,
type of
it's more about that individual situation between those 2 characters.
Yes, the trailer showed that pretty well. I thought, where it's these 2 formed a bond, and it's the Covenant, right? It's the agreement, the promise made between them. It looks very.
But when you see the context as to why he feels so inspired to go back, and because that's all in the trailer, they pretty much spell out the entire story. But seeing what actually went down that made him go, I need to go back and get him. It's a lot, dude.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that one.
It's a great movie. I like that a lot. And I don't want to spend too much more time on anime, but I was watching the new season of Demon Slayer. So damn, this is mostly for you.
Oh my god, I need to watch that. Holy crap.
Yeah, you do, buddy, because we're 5 or 6 episodes in, and it's already going down.
Yes.
And it has been for the last 3 episodes. So it's they did very much like what you're talking about, where it's like they gotta hit the ground running.
They hit the ground running.
Like you got 2 episodes of them being goofy, and then it's just been nothing but like nutty stuff since then.
Well, Demon Slayer, the manga is not super long, right? Isn't this like ending in another season or 2? I think.
I don't know, dude.
I think it's not actually super long, so I think we're.
I just watch it. I don't read it, buddy. I don't
You don't read Japanese.
Reading is for nerds. I watch.
Well, they read all like backwards and stuff.
Yeah,
I can't handle that. Yeah.
A bunch of morons.
No, but that's it. Once I beat Jedi earlier this week, it became I got to sneak all this stuff to watch in real quick.
I knew you'd love Evil Dead. Like I was like, Kyle's gonna love this as soon as I finished it.
The gore in that movie is so out of control, dude.
It's so
awesome.
cartoonishly.
The one from a few years back, the newer one, like not like the old ones, but there was the one from like what? I don't know.
2013,
7, 8 years old.
That one's great too. Yeah, that one's really good
so
too.
You guys like because I really liked that one. I liked that one a lot.
I like that one quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys nice.
Yeah.
Excited. Cool.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about more anime.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, Tim, what anime do you got?
I kept it short. Don't come at me like that. I kept it short. No.
Come at me.
No.
I know I don't have any. I don't have a whole lot. I caught up on a few movies. Nothing worth really diving into because they've already been talked about here on the show. It's just nice to knock stuff off the backlist. I do recommend all 3 of these movies. Maybe not for every audience, but The Green Knight, I think I recommend it, especially if you're a big cinephile, if you really like cinematography and just a unique way of making movies. It's very unique. I think it's worth your time if you are really into movie making. I think the menu was really clever and dark, and I thought it was excellent. I love the performances.
You expecting that? Like what ended up really
based on hearing you guys talk about it. Okay. I wasn't necessarily expecting specific plot points, but I I got the movie I expected based on what you guys had said about it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great. I loved it. And then finally watched the latest James Bond and thought it was super fun. Really enjoyed it.
I love that movie.
Dude, my mom was so mad about the ending of that. She's so mad.
Oh, it was great.
She's just because she's like old school. So she's like, it's not the same as before. It's all right, Mom. Like, all right, boomer.
Heaven forbid they give him an actual 5-movie arc, whatever it is.
Sure.
And, like, beginning, middle, and end.
She's just being a boomer. You know,
okay, boomer. Yeah.
It is what it is. So anyway, but yeah, nothing much more to say about any of those. And of course, no other games been playing. Just the main ones we've already talked about. So
they're big enough.
It's enough. It's enough.
You're not playing Bum Simulator, Tim?
I'm not. I sent the guys a link.
I've seen so many streams of that. That's a solid game, guys.
There is an actual game out. It released on the same day as Zelda because they know their audience.
Oh my god! It did come out the same day.
That's been in early access for years.
It's been in early access. The official launch was the same day as Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and it's Bum Simulator, where you rise through the ranks of becoming a legend on the streets. It's pretty much.
It has a very positive.
People love it.
Of course,
like the little video shows you shows you like you're laying on the ground drinking from a bottle. You can pee on somebody and give them the bird. Like
I was gonna say I should stream this, but it might actually not even like. I don't know if it would break TOS if it's like too inappropriate.
People stream it all the time. It'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, guys. I think that does it for us this week, and we'll be talking more, I'm sure, about Zelda and other things next week. But thank you for checking us out. Thank you for your watching and listening. Really appreciate your support, and thank you for putting up with Derek a blanket. We always appreciate that too. So,
thank you for
see you next time. Peace.